Boom.
There we go.
Hey, and we're live. We're all pumped right there because we had an echo until a split second before we went live. I'm really hoping you can hear us. All of you, all the thousands that are in there waiting for us to go live here at the Big Fat Podcast. Hopefully we're going to monitor that chat section just in case. And we probably, our main quality control guy, our main quality control listener is not going to be in the chat section because he's here in studio with us today. That's right. Once you have, when you've hit a certain limit, is that you?
That's him.
When you've hit the super chats, when you max out on the super chats, you actually get to come in studio. And that's what's happened here today. We have Shelby Burrows, and he has maxed out on the super chats and earned his place here in the Big Fat Studio. Welcome. Shelby, let's kick over there to Shelby.
How are you guys this evening?
We're doing awesome, man. I'm glad.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you could be in here. It's been too long. We did a podcast a couple years ago.
Yeah.
It's just the two of us in here, and it was just fun to just sit around and just talk about old mining stories. And I'll give you a little intro. Shelby Burrows, he is the closest thing I have to a mountain man friend. He's my mountain man friend. I think I won Shelby over. I was actually up at the Stillwater mine. I was a young miner 3 in training. I was still older than Shelby, and met Shelby there. We started working up at the mine together, and I told him on the very first day, "You remind me of a young Duke, of a young John Wayne," and I think I won him over that day. Is that true, Shelby?
John Wayne's my favorite.
Man, once I figured that out, I was like, I knew I was in good with you.
Chris Mater is already in there.
Chris Mater.
And he says our video's jumpy. Damn it.
Oh, man. Everybody's off the Wi-Fi, right?
Yeah.
And we'll try to not move around too much, too. Actually, when you do too much motion, we just need faster internet. And you just wouldn't believe how much the internet was for us to go to the next. I upped it.
Yeah.
And then, but the next, there's no more up until you go to like, I don't know, there's like some fiber optic thing. They would have to like literally dig up the road and come over here, and they were going to give me a price on that. And then it was like the lowest price was like $800 a month or something.
Wow.
So subscriptions are going up. I'm sorry, everybody's got a subscription. It's going to be doubling. So, Shelby, how you been, man?
Not too bad.
Long time no see.
Been just enjoying the snow, and everything's finally melting off, and hopefully spring's just around the corner.
Hopefully so, man. Yeah. How has winter treated you? As the fencing world, does that slow down for you in the wintertime, or you've been keeping busy with that?
The month of February is pretty non-existent. So
it was non-existent, I think, in a lot of ways, though. Like, it was brutal around here.
Yeah, it was cold. I mean, I've lived at my house for 15, 16 years, and that's the most snow we've had piled up at one time.
In a long
time. Yeah. So yeah, I was just plowing and keeping the wood fire going, and try to keep working when you can. And
yeah, man, it was a crazy month. How about for you, Cole? You were out there dealing with wrecks and dealing with all kinds of nonsense and pipes and water heaters. And,
we talked about that the other night.
Right.
Pipes, water heaters, snow piling up on the roof to the point to where you had to get up and shovel it off, or it was starting to melt and seep through windows, and that tells you that the freaking insulation in my house isn't good enough. But
yeah, that's crazy down here to have to shovel your roofs.
I know. I've only had to do it one other time, and that was at was it 2008, 2009? We got that big snowstorm right during antelope season opener.
Yep.
Remember? And then we had snow on the ground until like April. But that was the only other time I've had to shovel snow off the roof.
Funny story about that time, exactly that time frame. It rained a bunch before it snowed, and I needed to and then it snowed like 4 feet.
Yeah.
And I had to get some hay up to my horses, and my wife, bless her soul, was 9 months pregnant with my daughter, Sarah. And so we jump in the truck and head up there, and I put a hay bale in the back of my truck, big round bale, and bust snow up the top of McNally all the way down Joe Hill Creek, and the snow is hood high. And we get to the horse pasture and get in there, and I get stopped. And because of all the snow and the rain and the ground wasn't froze because it's October, we get stuck in the mud with all this. And she's 9 months pregnant with 4 foot of snow on the ground.
Oh my gosh.
And we're a mile and a half from Shane Creek. And I had to grab Morgan with my saddle blanket I had on the back seat to put around her because for some reason kids didn't think they need to bring a coat.
Right, but in Montana, it's standard operating procedure. You have a saddle blanket. That's what you do.
Yeah. And then so me, Morgan, Tammy, and my old dog Jake go walking off the hill after we called my friend Chris, and he's like, I'll meet you at the bottom, because he couldn't get up there either, and I'll meet you down there. So we start walking, and this snow is waist deep to me.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm just busting a trail for my wife so she can a little easier trail. And there was multiple times that she like yard darted herself.
Oh man.
Because she's got this big belly.
She's heavy out front.
Yeah, and she's holding it and walking, and you know, we're just taking our time. And it was crazy. Get
Dude,
down there.
I always think of these moments and I'm like, man, you'd have been good to cross the plains with. You know, you could have crossed the plains with her in a wagon.
And that was that same weekend. So we used to do an annual antelope rifle hunt over in eastern Montana. And like we set up we go all out. We set up wall tents, you know, out on this old homestead. We have 9 or 10 sections worth of antelope hunting that we can hunt on. So we set up 2 or 3 wall tents. We're out on the prairie for 4 days hunting antelope, trying to fill all these tags. Well, we got this 4 foot of snow in October, and it was October 13, 14, because that's antelope season opener for rifle. We usually it takes 3 hours to get up there. It took us like 5.5 because of the roads. We set up camp and had 3 feet of snow out on the prairie, and we hunted antelope for 4 days. Tried to. I think we
were they even there?
I think we killed. There was 8 or 9 of us at camp, and I think we killed 2 antelope.
Wow!
And those were like, I think they'd all hunkered down. Well, we had walked enough. You couldn't drive anywhere, so we had to walk everywhere we were hunting. And these antelope finally found enough of our tracks, and we had pushed the snow enough out of the way. But,
wow!
Then we got to thinking, it's like, we're doing this for 4 days. These old timers did this year in and year out.
Man.
And most of them didn't have tents. They were bedrolls, so
yeah.
I got to reference something here. Chris Mader says, my neighbor growing up knew a guy who tried a snowblower on his roof. Apparently it does bad things to the shingles. I got a story about that this year. So our house has been listed for sale, right? And I got those metal roofs up there, and this is the first year all of a sudden we get a call. We're like, hey, we have a showing tomorrow or whatever. And all of a sudden we wake up and there's a bad smell downstairs in the basement. And we're like, what is this smell? We're freaking out about it. Anyway, long story short, we figured out that our roof vents were covered up with snow.
Oh yeah.
And
letting all the exhaust for
that's a first time this year that's ever happened in over 10 years. So anyway, we were stressing about people coming to see the house, and like, I need to get these things uncovered. How do I get them uncovered? So we put an extension ladder up against the roof, and I got to get to these pipes somehow because I can't have the house smelling bad. So I got up there. I shouldn't admit this right now, but I was like, you know what? We got metal roof and we got those big screws, and I thought I'm going to if anything, I'll just use those screws as traction. You can't find them when there's like a foot of snow though on the roof. And so I got up there, and I stayed on track with the ladder. I had April. I'm like, could you come outside and like go like a quarter of the way up that ladder? And if I slide, I'm going to slide at that ladder and I'll hit that ladder, and you're going to save me. All right. So anyway, I did that. I got up there, and I got up there and cleared off those pipes, those vent pipes, the one time, but it was sketchy. I felt like I was going to go at any second. And then I was like, this isn't smart. I'm going to be that guy. And I'm going to be that guy with a bad story. So anyway, I made it back to the ladder, went on back down. And then we found an extension pole with this other thing on it that I rigged to clear off these pipes. But I've never had that problem. And this year, and then I started seeing people in Billings posting it.
Yeah.
That their roof vents were closed up.
Yeah, that's that snow. It just never melted off. 'Cause
Wow.
usually my roof, every once in a while, it'll warm up enough and it'll slide off. And just when it finally did, it came off in one big chunk.
Yeah.
And then it collapsed my deck.
Oh, no.
Yeah, for the second time.
Holy
I don't remember the
mackerel.
last time it did it, but I jacked it back up and fixed it. And this year I went out there, I was like, my barbecue was sitting weird. And it had collapsed my deck in. So I had to go out there and winch it back up again.
Wow.
Because the person that built it didn't do a very good job.
Ah, man, you know what? I got too excited. We got started here and got reminiscing. And I have a list of weird random questions. So we're going to go rapid fire, Shelby. All right. You ready for this?
So you got to answer them within like
5 seconds.
no
You got
more.
5-second answers. Okay. Okay. What's the wildest animal you've ever seen up close in Montana?
Buffalo.
Buffalo.
You want to hear the story?
Yeah, go for it.
Me and my friend.
So much for rapid fire. Sorry, I just want to hear it.
Right off the get-go.
Or do we come back to the Buffalo story? Let's come back to the Buffalo story. Everybody
Okay.
remember the Buffalo story. Hold me to that. Okay. All right. Sorry. I hope the quality is improving here, folks. I really do. I really do. Sorry. I'm looking here at the screen. But thank you for sticking with us. Either way, I am recording these also to the hard drive. So if they're really bad, I'll try to upload it later again in the clean version if possible. So thanks for sticking with us. Okay. If you could only eat one wild game meat forever, what would it be?
Elk.
Elk.
100%.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. I guess that I should have known that. All right. What's your go-to campfire story to spook kids? Do you have one?
I just come up with new ones all the time.
I bet.
Yeah.
Some really sick, twisted ones, I'm sure.
And then it's usually scaring them, not just the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
Walking around camp and then you get
And then laying in wait over there for when they finally okay.
Get relaxed and then you get them.
Whiskey or beer, which warms you up after a long day?
Whiskey. 100%.
I knew that one. I just asked that for Cole's sake.
I knew that one.
Okay. Okay. What's the funniest thing you've seen a horse do on a hunt? You horseback in, you pack animal it in.
I had just weaned a horse, or things happen with a horse.
Either. Things happen.
At my wife's cousin in hunting camp one year, and I just weaned a colt off one of my mares, and that was a perfect time to wean her. So she's still milking.
You said wiener.
I know. Wiener. Yeah. And so we're at camp and I'm like, hey, you want to try some mare's milk? So I go over there and I milk her out, a little bit into a cup. And yeah.
Who tried it?
Craig. His name's Craig.
Oh my gosh.
It's good. Yeah.
And
that's the craziest story.
Oh my gosh.
You could have sold it to be like, dude, the Mongols lived on this stuff.
They did.
The Mongols lived on mare's milk.
And it's sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's good milk. I mean,
you're a Mongol warrior.
Yeah.
You've tasted it?
Oh yeah.
Oh man, the things we learn on the Big Fat Podcast.
Yeah, you can't
not try it, huh? I mean, were you hooked? I mean, did you just not go back to?
No, but
what's in your fridge over there?
What?
Okay. All right. If you were a mountain man in the 1800s, what would your nickname be?
Ooh, that's a good one because there's so many great ones.
He wouldn't give himself one though.
No,
yeah, what would you give him, Shelby?
Yeah,
Or
Cole,
what would you give
your
him?
friends?
Yeah, I know, right? Now the pressure's on you.
Pressure's on me.
Man.
Yeah, because that's how most of them got their names.
Right,
Even
it's
like
by somebody
Jeremiah.
else.
I'd probably come up with something weird like Columbus Bob.
Yeah.
Columbus Bob. What would you give him?
Probably I can't say this on the live because I don't think you could say that word on YouTube. Starts with an R. Never mind. let your minds run wild with R's.
Or like Whiskey Jack.
I can.
Yeah.
Whiskey
Okay,
Jack.
there you go. Yeah. I have some stories that happened underground that I came home and couldn't tell my kids. Let me just say that. All right.
Oh, I bet.
Okay. We had some good times.
Yeah.
Shelby sent me one the other day of Dumb and Dumber of these, and it was a meme or a little video of them like, you know, like the pranks you pull on your work friends. It shows one guy whacking the other. Anyway, we did a lot of pranks.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I thought really hard, I could come up with some good ones. Okay. I don't have one offhand. Okay. This is kind of gay. Sorry. If you could hunt a mythical creature, what would it be? Sorry.
I mean, 100% like Sasquatch.
Sasquatch.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I thought
but
you were going to milk a unicorn or something.
I
Is
mean,
Sasquatch really mythical though?
ooh, that's
Is Sasquatch mythical, or
man.
are you guys believers?
Are we prepared to go down the rabbit
how
hole?
about the little gremlins up in the bighorns
Or the Priors?
or
The
priors?
little people in the Priors?
the little people in the
Totally exist, dude.
Oh,
The
man.
Crow and Cheyenne and Sioux fought over those mountains for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. There's
something. there.
something up there,
Yeah.
and I'm not the only one that'll tell you that.
Really?
Majority
Shelby,
of the people that
you
are
think
up there.
there's something up in the Priors?
I wouldn't discredit it.
I've never been to the Priors.
We're gonna go.
What you doing tomorrow?
Well, you don't want to go there now, but I'm gonna go up there. The nerd in me.
We'll go up tonight.
I
dude.
know the nerd in me goes up there every spring to go look for certain bird species that barely come into Montana to
Yeah.
breed, and they breed up in the Priors.
Ah,
There's a couple of sagebrush sparrows and mountain plovers. There's some of those up in the Priors. So I'm going up there anyway in the next month or so. You'll have to come with me.
Yeah, I've never been.
Dude,
up
the
there.
Priors are cool.
Man, I've never been up there.
The Priors are cool. Well, that's where LaForge went for his Vision
I
Quest.
know. I gotta go.
You know?
He describes those cliffs too.
Yeah.
Do you know
Do you
where
ever-
that's at?
I know where a bunch of those are. I know where some glyphs are in the Priors.
Really?
I know some ice caves, the ones that people know about, and then I know where a few ice
Other-
caves that people don't know about.
Wow.
So-
We're gonna have to go.
The Priors are some of the coolest mountains ever.
Wow.
Ever.
I have to get up there. Can't believe
Yeah.
I've lived here this long and I haven't been up there. You know why? Because I put my head down and had to go to work, and I just haven't been able to get out.
And that's why I mined for 8 months or less, 6 months. I couldn't handle it, dude. I need the mountains. That's why I came home.
Wait, you did what?
I worked at the mine.
You did?
Yes,
I did not know that.
Yeah.
How am I just now learning that?
you knew that.
I don't even know you now. What else are you hiding from me?
I worked up there for
I didn't know this.
I came home in 2000.
You just like
4.
smirk at me or laugh at me when I'm telling you mining stories. You're
Yeah.
just like, you're a loser.
Yeah, I worked up there.
I didn't know you worked
Yeah.
up there.
I worked up there for like 6 months. Got through MSHA training. Was working in the Upper West.
You were the smartest one. You
Mhm.
got out.
Worked up there. Yeah, 6 months. And then I was like, I need the freaking sunlight. I need the
Yeah.
mountains. I don't want to work in the mountains. I want to work on the mountain.
Wow.
So I
How do you-
bailed. I bailed before I got into the money.
He didn't want to be one of the dark people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
shoot.
Yeah.
Huh. We're gonna have to talk about that more later. We're right in the middle of the fast firing.
Yeah, fire.
Okay. Sorry. All right. That one's dumb. Okay.
it's not gay.
Sorry. Okay. Mountains or plains? Which feels more like home?
Mountains, 100%.
You know what though? I get out in those plains north of if you want to call them plains, north of Rapple, like as you're heading out toward Rapplejaw and you
Oh,
get
yeah.
out there, man, there's something beautiful out there, those big wide open spaces.
Well, there's a combination because you get those big canyons out in that country. You know, you got Big Coulee, and I lived out just north and west of Big Coulee,
Yeah.
and
In Shawmut,
yeah, north or south of Shaman.
south
Yeah.
of Shawmut.
And
Yeah.
there is. I can show you where some Indian drawings are on small caves out there too.
Yeah,
Wow. Dude,
we should go find them.
Man, we got to do this stuff.
Yeah,
Have you ever been to Shawmut?
No.
Yeah, it's not much.
Yeah, used to have a cafe. Now it
So
doesn't have one anymore.
Get this. I ran into a lady the other day. You all right, my man?
Yeah.
I got a cough switch over there. I keep on threatening to use it. You're getting the cough switch. We'll put that over there for you. Sorry, man. You okay?
Yeah, I'm
Okay. I met a lady the other day who has been a caretaker of sorts of a Catholic church out north. She said 14 miles north
Yep.
of
Rapplejay.
Rapplejay. She says it's about as she says it's about as
I know exactly what.
Okay, there was a town that was 8 miles away, starts with a B. No, not big.
Big Cooley.
No, not Big Cooley. Because I said, why
north
wasn't
of
it in
Rapplejay.
town? She says, no, the train came 8 miles away to a town called something with a B.
You sure?
That's what she said.
And the church is on Church Road up there.
Yeah,
I know
it's built just over 100 years ago. I think it was built in about 1910.
If you keep going toward Broadview.
Broadview.
Okay.
Was it the town?
It's still there. Broadview's still there.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Broadview's east, north and east of here.
Right, but the train doesn't go there anymore though. So,
No.
but the train would go to Broadview, and then anyway,
the train still goes to Broadview. It actually goes past Broadview to Lavina, and then goes.
Is it a spur?
Yes, it's not really a spur. It's a smaller line.
Oh,
and it actually goes north of Shamet by the old town of Hedgesville, and then it goes up to Judith Gap, and then goes up towards like Moore.
You know what? I know that line because it's a BNSF line, and back in the days when I was at BNSF, that was one of the lines I was like, I wonder if I could get track inspector on that line. I didn't realize it went through there.
Yeah, and then it crosses the highway. Where does it cross the highway? Just west of Rygate, or somewhere right in there, and then it headed up to the N-Bar Ranch that I worked on north of Shamet.
We're going to get to that ranch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now we're going to talk about that because we didn't talk about that before. Oh, okay. So anyway, we're in the fast fire questions, but okay. But anyway, I didn't know there was a Catholic church up there, and they've redone the inside. I mean, they've taken care of the place. It was built over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You've never been out there?
No, I've never been out there, but I was talking to Penny about us maybe going out there to shoot a video and tell the story of that place. But
yeah.
Anyway. Okay. Sidetracked. Okay. Work alone or with a crew?
Depends on the job. Because I do like working alone. But sometimes you need more than one person.
Cross shift or no cross shift?
No cross shift. 100%.
You want to
throw them underneath the damn muck pile.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Rifle or bow?
Rifle.
Okay. I knew that one. Cole?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm not choosing because that's
rifle.
That's
or
more
bow?
hunting. More hunting. Both.
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 Okay.
I just have never.
I've wanted to do the bow, but I haven't
never been able to hunt with a bow. So
yeah,
I can shoot a bow,
right,
and do quite good, but I never
just got into it.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't either. I would do it. You know, I've been wanting to do the recurve.
They're
and
awesome.
Just go full, like, let's get crazy here and go old school. But anyway, okay. All right. Fix it quick or fix it right?
I am a fix it right because don't ask my wife because everything takes forever because I am one of those, if I don't have the right thing to fix it right, I leave it.
Okay. If you're mining, fix it quick or fix it right?
That's a tough
fix
one.
It enough for your cross shift to go have to do it the right way.
I was usually
everybody, all your old cross shift is listening to this.
Yeah.
Fix it quick or fix it right?
I always thought I was a pretty clean miner, so I thought I usually kept it pretty good.
All right. I don't have anything to negate that, so we'll just let that one ride. All right.
I didn't blow up anybody's jack legs, that's for sure.
Trying to think. Okay. Talk it out or walk away. What's your conflict style?
Ooh, it depends on what the mood is.
How much whiskey are we drinking?
I mean, if it's full, I am one of those.
Okay. No. What about, okay, I don't want to get you in trouble, but if it's with the missus, talk it out or walk away?
Walk away.
Oh, good call. Good, safe call.
Silence is the virtue.
There we go.
We've learned that now.
Yeah.
You asked me that question 15 years ago.
Yeah. It's years of experience.
Well, I got an ex-wife for a reason.
Summer or winter? Which season is your favorite?
Winter.
Winter?
Oh yeah.
Honestly, mine is too.
Mine
I get
too.
grumpy in the summer. When it's hot outside, I get grumpy.
Yeah.
I don't feel like doing things and I'm grumpy. All right. It's not about me. This isn't about me. Lead the pack or follow the trail?
I'm usually one of those guys that goes off on its own.
I can see that.
Yep.
If there's, hey, I want to see what's over there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't care about who's leading and who's
No.
following, right? Okay. All right. Okay. What's your off duty vibe? Boots or bare feet?
Bare feet.
Really? I just figured you just wore boots until they came off right
No.
before you had to slip into bed.
No, I walk around the house barefoot, and walk outside barefoot.
I don't know if I'd that would shake me up to see that. I think I've only seen you in boots.
I remember when you used to wear tennis shoes.
What?
Yeah.
Hey, you want to see what's on there? Look at this.
Oh, look at those. Those look comfy. I don't even look down there. All right. Okay.
It was easier to climb the tree in our front yard in tennis shoes.
It was
Okay.
almost barefoot was
Yeah.
better.
I think you were barefoot up there a few times.
Yeah. You can grab the bark.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the deal here. What's the name of that? What's the most remote ranch you've ever worked on?
I can't really say ranch, but I did a stint in the Grovant in Wyoming.
Really?
And
I'm glad I asked this because I didn't know that. I thought you were going to talk about.
well, the end bar was pretty remote, but when I spent like a month in the Grovant down by, it's south of Jackson. Actually, it's east of Jackson Hole and then south of Dubois. There was a forest permit. We had to go gather cows off there. We were 25, 30 miles either way to the nearest road.
Wow. Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, this is stuff that some dude right now, one of our thousands of viewers right now, is sitting in New York City, and he has no concept of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Fish Creek and the Grovant and stuff, right?
Is that the Wind River Range?
Yeah, I believe so. And then that iconic barn that everybody sees out of Jackson by the Tetons.
That Molten Barn?
Yeah. You drove right by there and then you headed east.
Huh.
And
wow.
I got Giardia. That was an awesome.
Oh, I've had it too. I've had that too.
That was the best part of Wyoming was, the beaver fever.
Oof.
I got mine out of Eastern Montana.
Man, sounds like something you'd get in Tijuana, but never mind. Okay.
That starts with a C.
What is the secret to digging a perfect post hole?
Digging a perfect post hole. A level.
I thought you were going to say a good skid steer
or some post pounder.
I don't know,
because you don't dig them, you pound them.
Yeah, a level.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Oh, all right. What's the worst weather you've fenced in? Right. We're talking to the CEO of Bad Canyon Fence. That's who we're talking to right now.
Fencing is done in the summer mostly.
Okay.
Lewistown in the South Moccasins, I believe it was. And it was like 109 degrees in a burn. It was an old burn with that charcoal on the ground, and there's the winds, that you get that weird.
So it was an area that had already burned the season before, probably?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or a year or two before. And then so you still got the ash on the ground.
Oh, man.
And there's a little breeze, but that heat with the black and it was.
Were you missing underground when you were out there? Where you were like, I wish I was underground?
Sometimes, because it was pretty rough country too. So,
man, and where was that at?
North of Lewistown, like 5 miles.
Okay. No, it's been a long time since I've been up to Lewistown.
You can see it right from town. So,
okay. Let's see here. What's the hardest lesson you learned in mining?
Hardest lesson was do your due diligence. Always be looking around because it will sometimes come down and get you.
Very true.
That's
very true.
Bar down.
Yeah.
Even if you think it's good,
do it anyway.
Yeah, because it was.
We told this story before, but I watched a rock come out of the back. Like I watched it. We
Yeah.
were both, I don't know what kind of heading that was. We were mining out. It was a big room we were in.
I think that was.
I was still in training, and I'm drilling up in the back. He's off to my left, and I'm watching over there. I don't know. I just saw it, I guess, I saw the whole thing.
Yeah.
I saw a rock come out of the back that literally, if it had hit me the way it hit Shelby, I'd been dead. It would have broke my neck. It was a rock. I'm not kidding you. I'm not even exaggerating you. It was probably this long and about this thick and, like this wide. Like, I mean, it just dropped. And I mean, we weren't out working underneath unsupported ground.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just in there, and it was kind of a wild thing. We weren't even really breaking any big rules or anything. It's just that, I don't know.
No, it was just like between bolts. I mean,
Yeah, it was just came out of the back, and yeah. And so I'm over there, I'm new guy, and I look over there, and he's like, "Rah," and he's just doing it. He can just toss that jack leg around like it's a child. I'm over there muscling it like if I were trying to, muscle Shelby around. And I gotta do everything I can to balance this thing. Anyway, that thing came out and landed right at I would say at the top of your spine, base of your neck. Wouldn't you say? Was that right?
Yeah.
Kind of good that it landed somewhat, maybe a little bit caught on your shoulders. That would have broke my neck. This thing dropped probably 3 feet and hit him on the back, caught his helmet.
Damn.
Hit this thing on the back of his neck. I just kind of was like, did that just happen? Like, and he hit him, and I think it just scared you, like spooked you more than anything, because he started swearing up a storm, like it caught him off guard. And I was over there like lamely like, are you all right? And he is just hot, and he walks past me and he storms out, and I'm like, well, he's walking. I wouldn't be walking.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he took a little cool down. You took a little cool down period, and then he came back and grabbed the jack leg and went back to work, and we just went back to work and acted like nothing happened. And meanwhile, I'd have been dead. They would have been line 5 calling to haul me out of there.
Out. I had stuff drop on me. I was like, whatever, 2,800 off stope. After, for off stope, you're climbing up 150 ladder steps, 180 ladder steps or whatever to get off stope, and some of that stuff down there on the lower. And I'd have stuff dropping on me constantly. The first few times it was one of those, scared the crap out of me. And I mean nothing that big. And then after that, you just you do that, cuss a bunch, storm off.
The little
go
stuff,
back to work.
Was an everyday thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I lost a front tooth because one the size of about a softball come out of the wire and bounced off my machine and caught me right in the mouth, just perfect.
Yeah.
Lose a tooth.
Ouch.
No big deal on that one, but yeah, it's the
I had that
big
one.
There was 2 big ones, and that made you look a little bit.
Was
better.
the one that I saw, was that even one of the big ones?
That was a good one. There was one other one that one. Thank God it happened on a Friday.
Yeah, mine happened on a Friday. My little one. I had one little one. Got me, just missed the brim of my hard hat. And right as I looked up just before I shut the jack leg off.
Yeah.
I should have shut the jack leg off, then looked up. But I looked up just as I was shutting it off, and one came down, caught me right in the eyebrow, right? And I'm bleeding all over the place. And I'm still in training.
Look how much sexy you are with that scar.
See, that's what he said. He was like, dude, now you're sexy. He's like, that's a cool one. That's a cool scar. It would happen on a Friday, and I hit it. If you got hurt while you were in training, you were locked in.
Oh, I know.
That pay grade for a year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I got to make my 2. Like, I can only take this pay cut here for a while, but I got to make mine or 2.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hit it. I go up to, and I keep my hood up, and as we're on the surface, and anyway, cleaned it up and everything. But that was the first thing. When Shelby saw it, he was just like, that's going to be a cool scar.
Well, I was so right in the middle of my minor 3, I was on crutches. I had fell doing something at the house, was doing something stupid, went off the porch. I was probably drinking or something. And dude, I had to go to the doctor, and my ankle hurt so bad. They put me on crutches. They're like, you need to be on crutches for 6 weeks. I'm like, I start minor 3 like in 2 days.
Ooh.
And I mean, at that time it was hard to get
It was
hard to
very
get hard to get up on the mine. And when you were in minor 3, you didn't want to do anything to lose it. So I like had this weird air cast thing that I was wrapping like with 3 ace bandages, and then I was wearing some Danner boots or something like that, bought them like a size and a half too big just so I could wear that stupid thing under my boot. And of course, not too long after that, in the middle of wearing that, I'm going up and down those freaking ladders.
So you were in a slusher stope.
Yeah.
When you started.
Yeah.
Oh man,
And,
those are no joke.
No. So yeah.
They didn't skip you up the skip?
No.
Come on.
No. But then as soon as I got done with that, I got up on the Upper West and I was cable bolting.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good gig. Cable bolting up on the Upper West was a good gig.
Yeah.
But then I missed the mountains. Seeing the mountains. So I'm like, I'm out. Sorry, we got tangent, not rapid fire.
Yeah, no, we're still on rapid fire questions. Can't you tell?
Bang.
I know. I have a whole slew of questions, and I'm thinking here. So I'm gonna only pick like one more, maybe. I want to hear about. Okay, maybe I'll ask a couple more. What's one hunting tradition that you have that is worth passing down? Do you have a hunting tradition that you guys do?
I like
when you go up every fall. Is there something that is maybe it's a little thing, but
we hide a lot of little caches for our kids to find.
Really?
You know,
like what do you hide?
Just oddball things like cartridges and change and unused tags and stuff, and put them in like a brandy bottle or something, and we bury them.
Really?
Yeah.
And then how are they going to find those?
They'll have to get the map.
Oh, you make a map too.
Oh, yeah. We mark where they are, but they'll have to find them.
But
Find them
like a treasure hunt.
Yeah.
That's cool.
We have stuff in the Snowies. We've got stuff in the Beartooths.
Wow.
Yeah. Like even if we go on like even just pack trips, we'll put something, not just hunting trips.
Yeah.
Just so if our kids want to follow in our foot trips, they've got something to go look for.
That's cool.
So
I bet you they really enjoy that.
So
that makes it fun. Little things like that.
So there's 50 cents somewhere.
Yeah.
Go look for it.
Hey, it's the joy of the find.
Yeah. There's pennies. Those pennies are supposed to be worth money now that they're not going to make them.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Especially go back and get the right date.
Yeah.
Get something that's actually worth something, not just a token.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Is there one family rule that you'll never break? Do you have a rule at the house that you'll never break?
Ooh, family rule. We have those?
Good question, huh?
That is a good question.
Never cheat.
Never cheat.
Yeah.
I think mine was the one I was really hard on was the lying.
Yeah.
Was just don't lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway.
I think that would go hand in hand with don't cheat.
Yeah, that's just about
Don't
the
cheat.
same category.
You got to think about the lying thing. There's
Probably because I was such a liar when I was in like middle school and stuff.
There's always those little white lies. Everybody calls them a lie, but there's always those little white lies everybody does,
Yeah.
So, the big lies are big, but
yeah,
never cheat.
Yeah. That's a good one. That is a good one.
So, don't cheat at cards either.
Oh, yeah. Never cheat at cards.
What about Monopoly?
No.
That can go for a week. A good game of Monopoly will last a week.
Yeah.
Well, I was looking over there at Zach.
Zach.
We got Monopoly stories at our house.
Ooh.
So, okay. No, it wasn't him. It wasn't him.
Zach said he does not cheat.
Okay, tell us the buffalo story.
I believe it was one of the last years they put the late season cow hunting Gardner, and I can't remember when that was. It was 98, 99, somewhere right in there. I drew a tag. Me and my buddy drew a tag, and we went over there with the horses, and we're like, oh, we'll go over there and shoot a cow, And, 2 days later, we got a call. Hey, Zach, we drive up on Ice House is one of the roads you can drive up there.
That's the name of the road. Huh?
Yeah, up on, it's a spot up above Gardner there, and there's a huge bull standing out there. And my buddy's like, why don't you go sneak up on that bull? And I was like, I was young. I was probably only 17 or 18 years old. And he's in his 30s. And so I, being who I was like, I can get up there. I can get close to him. And so I start sneaking out there on this big monster bull and creeping and creeping and creeping. And then pretty soon I'm like, looking behind me, he's backing the truck up away from me. Cause I'm like, oh, I can sneak out there. Cause we drove pretty close to that bull where, if I could run, I could get to the truck. He starts backing this truck up. And this bull, and I'm like, you dirty bugger. And so I got a little, because that bull, he kind of turned me a little bit.
Now you're out there on your own.
Yeah. And I'm like, I have nowhere to go. And I'm smart enough, not like some of these foreigners, that they are not pets and I'm not going to pet it. But yeah, we were up there playing with a buffalo.
Oh my gosh.
So then
they're all cool until they're not.
Yeah. Yeah. At least I can read animals a little bit, dealing with cattle enough. But yeah, I wasn't going to go up and touch him.
Yeah, right. You weren't going to try to load him in your trunk or anything.
Yeah, I wasn't going to pet him. Yeah, it was a funny moment.
Yeah.
So my good friend Robert.
How close were you to the bull?
I
mean, we're not in Yellowstone Park, so there's nothing. You're not doing anything wrong. Where he's at,
75 feet.
Yeah.
We got even a map. Our man Zach over there, he's got a map pulled up there. I don't know if you want to zoom in on that, but I don't know if we can even see it. But
Eagle Creek would be.
Can you recognize what we're looking at up there?
Yeah.
I think we got Gardner up on the map, right?
Eagle Creek is where we drug the elk down that we got. We drug them straight down Eagle Creek because pack saddle or a hitching post is over here on the road up to whatever Jardine.
Yeah,
we got out there and then rode to the northeast there and got up on that butte, and we were able to get an elk up there, and then we drug it straight down to Eagle Creek the next day.
Wow, you drug it?
Yeah, with our horse.
Oh, okay.
We just put the halter on the elk's head and drug it.
Wow.
Yeah, and then, but where Eagle Creek is, Ice House is a little further to the north, I believe. It's not on there, but that's where Ice House is.
Wow. Well, I understand, and I have not heard any details of this trip. I hope our quality is pretty good and we aren't lagging too bad there. If you're viewing our little thing, I just noticed we're lagging a little bit. Apologize. We'll get our crap figured out here. But you went to Alaska, man. Why'd you go to Alaska recently?
It was kind of a spur of the moment.
That's
kind
the
of
best deal. Kind
vacation trip,
How'd it come up?
I finished a job up in Red Lodge, and I knew it was kind of gonna get, the weather was changing, and my buddy's parents live up there, and we were kind of running out of work, so he was gonna leave, and then he's like, my parents invited you up to Alaska if you want to come. And I was like, well, I asked my wife, and she's like, well, go, So
did you ever mine in Alaska?
I did. What did I do? I did 50 days on Kodiak. We were doing a tunnel project on Kodiak for a hydroelectric project.
Like, look at that, dude. That's not something that's not like a common thing.
Yeah, it was cool.
But so this wasn't your first time to Alaska. You had done that mining job before.
Yeah, but okay. we were just in a remote camp on Kodiak, and I usually stay 30 days and go home, and I knew the job was close to ending, so I volunteered to stay over, and so I worked another 20 days more.
Wow. Yeah.
And so we were in a remote camp, like 5 acres, 10 acres in the middle of Kodiak Island, and that's the only place we could go for 50 days. So,
wow. Was that camp, sorry, I got off track of your trip, but was that camp like secure? I mean, was it fenced?
No, it just it had some of those.
And I'm saying secure because not from like bad people, but we got Kodiak bears, right?
No, they'd come right up to camp. I never. They had one there like 2 days before I got there. There was one right outside of camp, and they
Man,
scared them off. But yeah, they could come right up to camp if they wanted. So
wow.
we could glass like doll sheep and stuff across the lake up on the other ridge, and then some of those little Sitka deer and stuff were roaming around, or blacktails, whatever they are up there.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know to ask about a fence. But Cole, aren't you going on a trip? Are you going on a trip?
I got invited to go to Alaska.
Are you doing that trip?
I'd like to. Kind of just depends on
If it is
situation
so
that we're
it's
going to be
kinda
in, but
still
yeah,
up
where
in
we
the air?
we go camp.
But it's
near the-
when
near
you
the
say
bears.
camp, they've got like is it
yeah,
fenced?
you're camped within an electric fence, but I mean you're close to the bears,
Holy mackerel!
so
Isn't that it's like wild that you got to be inside of an electric fence?
just for sleeping,
Yeah.
But it's different. Those where you're going to take pictures of most of those fishing bears, you're on 5-6 generations of bears that have had people there. So I mean unless your name's Timothy Treadwell and you get eaten by the bears, but
And they're so full, they're not
Yeah,
looking for
they're not
food.
looking for food. Where there's the difference of the bears around here. You have 5-6 generations of bears around here, grizzlies, that have never been having that human bear interaction
or even seen a person.
or even seen a person, or let alone felt that a person can mean danger hunting. So you have, just like humans adapt to, generationally to their surroundings, so do animals. Animals aren't stupid to a point. And so these bears in Alaska have generations worth of these people. I mean, the early miners used to do the same thing. They would go on their off time and hang out right next to these bears that are fishing in the river. So, so these bears are pretty used to people there. And just like Shelby was saying with the bison, the bull, I mean, you learn their behaviors, and you got a bear that's acting like he wants to throw his weight around. You're probably not going to go hang out next to that bear, right?
Yeah, right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Man,
Same with when we were in Africa. We were in camps with nothing around us. We had elephants and hyenas and stuff just coming through camp.
Man, I'm lucky to get to Fireman's Point to throw a line in the water.
How about the polar bears up there in Alaska or Canada there? I mean,
Yeah, they come right through town.
yeah.
And it's pretty neat. They have a certain way of hazing the bears so they stay out of town. They have like a system, like loud noises, a helicopter chases them off. Then they trank them and put them in what they call bear jail, where they give them minimal food and water so they don't associate getting
Good times.
good times in jail, and then they don't want to be in that area. And then
Why do we do that in our jails?
I don't know. But then if you watch if you watch my YouTube video, I have a whole sequence where they take this great big boar, trank him, and haul him out into the tundra. Because
That's what we should be doing with our prisoners.
Yeah.
Is we should just trank them,
Give
haul them out in the
minimal food.
woods.
But
That's
Drop
called
'em
the
off.
Holocaust.
Oh, okay. No.
we can't do that.
Just got to wander back to town.
No. But we had
Confused.
on the Ring camera system where we stayed in Churchill one night. There's a bear on the camera walking right by the front or in the
Wow.
back, right through the alley, walking right down the alley in town. So
Man. All right. See, we get all sidetracked with all kinds of stuff here. So I didn't even know that you'd done this job up in Kodiak mining.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
No, it was a great little job, and
That sounds awesome.
yeah, it was a water diversion tunnel for Kodiak's hydroelectric. They have a hydroelectric dam that they run most of the year, but when the lake gets done after the glacial snows melt for the season, they run out of water, so they diverted it from another range on the other side over so they can double their capacity, so they can run more hydroelectric instead of diesel generators on Kodiak.
Wow.
So they do have some new windmills now, but the
See, I'm just not real pro windmill. It kind of bums me out. Windmills, I'm just like, don't get me all started here. I mean, I don't mean to jump in all about all that, but it always kind of bums me out. I mean, I feel like it takes away from the scenery.
yeah.
I don't feel like that it takes care of the green problem that we want it to take care of as much as we think it's going to take care
No,
of.
it doesn't.
I think it's like a big visible Band-Aid, but it's not really. Anyway, so it always kind of bums me out about those. And I think, man, we could come up with some better solutions than that. And the wildlife that they hurt, all those types of things there. But Anyway, so yeah, I wish they'd come up with some better solutions. I guess I've had that on the brain a little bit lately. I'm thinking about the windmills they have out in the ocean, the whales that have been washing up that are dying, the pounding. I watched a video of them pounding the bases of windmills into the ocean floor.
Yeah.
The
And like
pylons.
you can listen to them like 30 miles away. This guy had an underwater drone,
Oh wow.
and as they're pounding in pylons 30 miles away, it's just like pound, pound, pound. And you're like, wow, like all these things, windmills that they're putting out there in the ocean. No wonder. I mean, these whales and other different sea life, they operate on sonar.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
then-
it's messing up their sonar.
oh yeah, a lot of them are
Mm.
just coming up on shore. A higher rate of whale death in the North Atlantic
Wow.
that some want to deny that it's happening because of the green efforts of that. But so anyway, don't mean to get all distracted about all that, get all on this tangent here. But so let's get back to this trip. You were able to all of a sudden last minute, your buddy's like, hey, you're invited.
Yeah.
Let's head up there.
So I asked Tammy, and she's like,
You got us. How do you say no to this
Yeah.
opportunity?
it's a chance of a lifetime, especially wintertime, knowing that the Ben up there, he is an outfitter, and he's got camps back in the wilderness. And we talked about going and doing some trapping and stuff while I was up there. And so I fly up. I've ordered my tickets on a Monday, and I leave on a Thursday. I mean,
those are the best trips, man.
and
Oh yeah.
Those last minute.
so I fly up, my flights are messed up, you know how that all goes, and get into Anchorage, late. And then we have to drive, it seemed like 3 hours to Talkeetna. Talkeetna's to the northeast of Anchorage, I think it is. And pretty much north, but out of Anchorage, you go past Willow and Wasilla and stuff, and pretty cool country, when you start driving, and there's these mountains, and you don't think you're like on sea level because you're pretty close, because you're skirting along those inlets and stuff there out of Anchorage, but then these mountains just up out of there. And then we get to their house, it's late, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. And so I didn't get to see any of the scenery, and I wake up the next morning, and it's still that time of year is the sun doesn't come up until like 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Jeez.
So
Yeah.
it's weird.
Yeah, that would be weird.
And because even down here,
Just
it was
the time change last week, I've been
Oh.
thrown off.
Yeah.
it's horrible. And then down here, it was still like 7, 8 o'clock. The sun was coming up. So it's a couple hours difference up there still. And I get up there, and I get up for my first morning, grab a cup of coffee, and out there, 2 big picture windows is Denali
Wow.
right out the front window. And they're still a ways away from Denali, but it's just a big, ginormous mountain
Wow. Just a big
right
view.
out their window. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
It did take 2 days before it showed up, but it was like, boom.
Yeah.
'Cause
Why did it take 2 days to
it
show
was
up?
like it was kind of stormy.
Okay,
So the
cloud
clouds
cover.
were covering the top of it and stuff.
But
But
then
you could still see it, and then it took a few days for it to finally lift. But then you could see how far it reached up into the sky.
Was there like rays of sunlight coming through, and
There was a
maybe
few
a chorus of angels like
There was a few mornings it was pretty majestic, because they don't have plumbing, and I mean they do, but it's preferred to go to the outhouse. So me, I'd go to the outhouse, and I'd sit with the outhouse door open and look at Denali.
I ain't gonna lie, that's pretty badass.
That's pretty incredible.
And
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
call my wife, and I'm like, here, this is what I'm looking at.
Wow.
Looking at Denali and the range of everything. It was just, it was great,
Yeah, you're just going out for a number 2, and you're having like a spiritual experience.
Yeah, it was great. And 26 below, and you're sitting on the, it
Wow.
was beautiful.
That's awesome.
That is a bucket list of mine, is up in Alaska in the Denali. It's called the Front Range, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go in there and just immerse myself up in there and take pictures and
Wouldn't that be
hike
great?
and
That'd be great.
And then it rained.
We need some rich friends.
It was
That'd be-
crazy.
Yeah.
The first, what was it? I was there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like the first 3 or 4 days, it rained of all things in the end of January. It rained up there. It was 40 degrees and it was raining.
Wow.
So we ended up going to a few basketball games of my friend's brother had high school basketball games. So we ended up going to a basketball game in Nilchek, I think is the name. It's just kind of north of Homer. So we drove all the way down there to Homer, or by Homer, and that's like almost to the bottom of Alaska, other than Kodiak, and went to a basketball game that night, and then ended up getting stuck in the ditch. That was a fun night. Yeah, it was fun. And then the next day, we instead of driving all the way home, they had another game in Seward, and that just kind of goes around. It was about couple hour drive over to Seward, and we ended up all the way down on the ocean, and that was pretty cool. Other than it was raining cats and dogs,
pretty wild.
So we couldn't get out.
Raining in February in Alaska.
Yeah, so we couldn't get out and like walk the beaches, or I seen a pretty cool waterfall and stuff, and
yeah,
but you could see the ocean and the beaches and stuff. It was pretty cool, and some of the boats and stuff. And so,
wow.
So we got to go down to Seward and then drove, I think it was the Kenai Peninsula is like a lot of it. When we drove back to Anchorage, you drive right on the edge of it.
Yeah.
All the way back up to Anchorage.
So you brought in some show and tell. What is the story here? This is pretty amazing. I was like, don't show this to us because I want to be surprised. What do you got there?
Was a gift from my friend Ben up there. And this is a ginormous walrus tusk. And I was so shocked when he gifted this to me. And it was actually pretty touching, because this is like something most people will never touch or possess. So, and this tusk weighs almost 9 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And this is solid ivory.
How much is 9 pounds of ivory?
Oh, if you look, I mean, it's probably $20,000 worth.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't even look that up.
So,
but look that up.
It is tagged, so it is legal. So,
so how does that work?
Because
I saw that little tag over there.
Yeah, they have to go to the fishing game up there and get them tagged for possession purposes.
Oh, of course, yeah. So you don't look like you're.
And then
you just walk through TSA with that.
If you're getting it from a native up there, it has to have scrimshaw on it. You know, the carving, scrimshaw, they call it, when they do the carving on the ivory and tells a story or whatever.
Okay.
You know, old school stuff.
Yeah, right.
It has to have something. It can't just be raw ivory.
Really?
So if it comes out of...
I'm not familiar with how any of this works.
So that's my knowledge. I was like so blown away when he gifted me this. So
he's looking at about $8,600 right there.
Oh, $8,600 worth of ivory. So
$952 a pound for ivory.
Wow.
$952 a pound for ivory. That's incredible. I mean, that's not what the value that we're talking about here, but it's just that this friend would give something like that to you. That's pretty amazing.
Because I was like, I was wanting something to put on some pistol handles or something, grips, and we talked in the past, and he didn't have nothing, and then he's like, "Here, have this for a gift." Wow. I was like, but I can't cut a piece off of this and make grips. That's
right.
Not even. not even gonna happen. So,
wow. I don't blame you, because at first when you said that too, I'm like, oh, that's true. But I'm like, man, that'd be a shame to cut into that thing.
Yeah, no, it's such a cool gift. So
that's a once in a lifetime gift.
Do you know the story behind it or how he came across it?
He was flying, and he does the moose hunts and caribou and stuff at his own deals, his own camps. But then after that's over, he does coastal brown bear hunts and stuff, and they find walruses washed up on the beach all the time. So
How long is that, do you think?
I measured it. What the heck is it?
It looks like about 2.5.
28 inches, something like
Okay.
that.
Okay, 28 inches. I mean, what was the size of that walrus to have that thing hanging off of their
Tons.
face?
Yeah, they're big. You
That's
don't think
incredible.
they're tons.
Did you see any when you were down along Seward and stuff like that?
We
or-
didn't.
No.
It was storming so
Yeah.
bad we didn't see nothing. But I've seen. What are the ones down by San Francisco? They're the big sea lions.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're big.
Yeah.
But walruses are like twice as big as a sea lion is.
Wow.
So
Can you imagine that thing hanging off your face? How big do you have to be to have a 2.5-foot tooth hanging off your face?
I wish I could send you the picture. He found another one, and it's got a head and everything with it.
Wow.
And the bone in the head is so weird. It's almost like petrified rock, how the way the bone is in the face.
Just so hard, huh?
Yeah. So, yeah. And I think those tusks were even longer than these ones. They say the longer the tusks, the younger they are.
Really?
Yeah, because they start wearing off over time.
Huh.
Like
I would've-
super mature ones,
They're
even
pretty
shorter.
shorter down.
Yeah. So it's crazy.
That is crazy.
See, that makes me wonder. I mean, that thing is just over 2 feet, 2.5 feet, and it weighs 9 pounds. And then you get like some of these elephants, these super
Oh.
tuskers that have, 6-7 foot long tusks. I mean, they're not super common, but I mean, we saw the 2 weeks I was in Africa, we saw one that would be considered a super tusker, and it was a giant elephant. I can't
Not the
imagine.
typical ones that are,
No.
a little longer than this.
Yeah, no, this was this, and I haven't ever posted any pictures of him yet. But I bet he had 5.5 foot long tusks.
Wow.
We went to a museum in Kruger, and they have 8 or 9 super tuskers in there that have been recorded and died over the years, and some of the tusks there were 7 foot long.
Wow.
Just massive.
I mean, imagine that, you're having 2 of those things hanging off your face.
I know, and I've never seen a walrus in the wild, which is another
haven't either.
bucket list thing for me going to Alaska.
Yeah, I bet
So-
you'd see one.
Aren't
I
they
don't
kind of
think I've
gnarly
seen-
too?
Yeah, they're
They're-
mean.
They're
can
kind of
get-
mean.
Yeah, like they'll push you off or push other animals off where
Yeah.
they want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just massive animals.
Yeah.
Zach, look up how heavy they are. I know they're over a ton.
Yeah. Yeah. They're probably like the buffalo of the.
Of
Well,
the
no, because
sea.
you got of the sea. Yeah, but
Yeah.
then you got muskox up there too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
That's another
meaning
one.
comparable to land
Oh.
animals,
Yeah.
like maybe temperament wise, and like they probably, as long as you stay away from them a bit. I don't know. I don't know how they are about
I don't know. It'd be
They're
interesting.
very
Because-
territorial, I've heard.
Wow.
So
Males are 2,650 to 3,300 pounds.
Holy
ton and a
mackerel.
half.
Females are 1,300 to about 1,900.
So yeah,
Wow.
that's like a super, super big beef. Like
That
a
is.
big mature bull, breeding bull. That's that's getting up there
Yeah.
a ton. So
Yeah, man, that's incredible. What how long were you up there then?
I was there for about 10 days. And then when we were coming back from Seward, the weather changed. And it started snowing about the time we got to Anchorage. And then we get to Talkeetna, and there's like 1.5 feet of snow on the ground. And it's that heavy, wet stuff. And we get there to the from the highway to their cabin is like 14 miles, 7 miles, something like that. I can't remember. And it had pushed all the trees over the road. And they have like birch trees up there along with the spruce and stuff. But all the birch trees weren't frozen yet because it'd been 40 degrees out.
That's crazy.
So it was like a canopy of trees over the road. So it took us like 2 hours to go 7 miles.
wow.
And we were out in front of the truck shaking the ice off the trees so they would raise
Lift
up
up
enough.
to get the truck underneath.
And there was a few we had to break them off and stuff to get them out of the way or pull them around. And yeah, I mean, it was crazy. And then the next day we get up And we ended up having it, through the night it snowed, and then there was over 2 feet of snow on the ground just in the 24-hour period. And so we ended up having to shovel and clear everything off so the roof didn't collapse. And
Oh man.
the snow slid off the roof at one time, and we, just to get out off the one deck, you had to shovel all the snow to get around, because they run everything off generators.
Yeah.
So, because they're past the power lines back up where they're at. So,
Okay, so they're completely then they're just off grid, and
they've got a well.
Mostly by generator.
Yeah, all by. They do have some solar panels, but they're covered in snow, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything. They've got a pretty cool solar generator system and charging system with batteries and stuff, and they work pretty good. And water storage. They've got a really good well. I mean, if you've ever drank good water, this was some of the best Alaska water. So,
Wow. That's awesome, man.
So
you didn't get to, we talked, because we've talked about this already, but you didn't get to do any trapping because of the way the weather.
we didn't get to do any trapping, but we did get to fly to the backcountry to his main camp cabin is up Sheep River up out of Talkeetna, and we did fly his Super Cub in there for a couple of days and landed, and then we get back in there and there's 3 feet of snow because they're even further back on top of these cabins and stuff. So we spent a day and a half shoveling snow up there, and then it was good. We got to shoot some guns and stuff and hang out and just good time.
Oh yeah,
pretty much that sounds like a guy's dream right there.
Yeah, he did ride the snowmobile around just to see if he could get around with it, and the river being all that warm weather, the river hadn't froze over good enough to really getting up and down the river to establish a good trap line. So we weren't able to, in those 2 days, we weren't able to get a line established. So we just hung out and played cards and cribbage, and learned how to play hearts, and those good deals where back in the day.
So you guys weren't just sitting around on your phone scrolling?
No. And
that sounds relaxing.
And sitting on your phone scrolling?
No. Being off of the phone. Being out there just shoveling snow.
I do that all the time.
Doing all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And then, we just, you got to go get firewood, and that kind of stuff, because that's how that cabin,
Yeah.
And it's 30 below zero. And that ain't wind chill. That's just cold. And then, you got to keep the fire going. So you're constantly, you don't think how much easier it is just to turn your furnace on and let your house warm up. When your fireplace goes out, that house cools off fast.
Yeah.
So you're always just feeding the wood stove, and
so
it was good.
Actually, that's how we've been living for like a decade. This is actually the first year where we've been using our thermostat.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So at our house, we just would, we got several cords of wood. When we built out there, I wanted my boys to chop wood and split wood and have to have some chores and carry wood in the house and some things like that. So we put in the wood burning stove, and that's basically what we used all these years. And I did put in this fancy radiant floor heating system, but, we didn't actually end up finishing. Well, we did finish it this past year, but finishing insulating up underneath the base of everything. So we never did finish that, but we've just done that. We'd come home from a long day of work, and the house was 58 degrees, and I got to build a fire and warm it up, and we just have always, that's a major chore, I guess, but it didn't feel like a chore.
No,
I don't know. It's just how we lived, and I enjoyed it. Because I grew up in the desert. I grew up where you just have AC running 9 months of the year. And to just have to go build a fire has been, that was like a dumb little dream of mine. And
it feels different.
Yeah, it does feel different.
Wood heat is the best heat.
It is.
Even the other night, I haven't burned a wood stove in a while just because it's been warmer. And the other day, Tammy's like, why don't you build a fire?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something about it.
And it heats that house up so quick. And it's just a different heat, and then you don't have to listen to that furnace run.
Yeah.
So
I even like, sitting in the wall tent, and a wood stove in a wall tent. I mean, granted, once it goes out, it's ambient temperature in your tent within about 20 minutes. But
Yeah.
there's something about wood heat in a wall tent in the mountains that is just, it's one of those feelings that you're like, doesn't matter how, the day went hunting or whatever you're doing in the mountains, or how hard of a ride it was or how long of a hike it was. But man, you get back to camp, the first thing you do is light that fire, and it's just like, oh,
Yep.
peaceful.
Yep.
It is one of the best. I mean, that's one of the first things we got to learn as little kids.
How to build a
camping
fire.
is building fires. And then it was like a fight between my cousins and Clay and I and Riley, who was going to get to build a fire in the stove in the wall tent when we were camping.
Wow.
Because I mean, that's just one of those things, man.
Yeah, that's the way to grow up, though.
One of the
That's a
the
good way to
best
go.
stories was we were hunting camp in a different spot, same canyon, but different spot where I used to camp. We were up there, and this storm was coming, and we kind of knew it was coming, and we just kind of hunkered in, and it was me, Danny, and Kyle were in there, and we just knew. And so we stocked up on firewood, and we got in there, and we knew we had to keep that fire going. So we didn't really go to sleep until like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But we had that old sheep herder stove that I used to take in there going. And I mean, it's glowing red, and it is 40 below zero back in there. And it dumped 2.5 feet of snow that night on us. And we're sitting in there playing cards, and I mean, having a good time, doing like you do in hunting camp. And I'm sure there was some whiskey consumed and beer and all that good stuff. And then halfway through the night, we hear something rustling outside the door, and we're like,
yeah, what's rustling?
Yeah.
In those temps?
and I'm like, and I just peeked out the tent, and there was a nice 4-point muley buck, probably 6-8 feet from the door of the tent. I don't know if he's seen the glow or something, but yeah, he came right up to camp, and we're like, oh, and then he just kind of wandered off into nowhere, but it
Wow.
was like he came right up to camp. Because when those, I always carry a old Coleman lantern stuff, that sound, that
Right. Yep.
and that's one of those sounds that just so peaceful too.
Yep.
Yeah.
When you're in the mountains. And my lantern is my grandpa's lantern, and I still keep it going and stuff. It's a old single mantle lantern from 1956, I think.
Yeah.
It's old. And I don't know, when you go outside, that tent's just illuminated.
Yep.
So crazy. And I don't know if that deer just seen that, and he's like, oh, that's like a fly to an ant to a flame, or whatever that saying is.
Yeah. Just draws them in.
So, but it was cool we didn't see nothing other than this buck.
It's just
sitting
curious. It's
outside our
like, who's out
camp.
here?
So it was pretty cool. So those stories.
It's better than some of the things you can see in that canyon coming up to your tent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Bunch of foreigners.
Yeah.
Well, good times. That's awesome, man. You're able to fly into the backcountry in a Super Cub. That is, that's a bucket list item for me right there.
Landing on the beach of a river in like 3 foot of powder.
Wow.
That was cool.
That would be cool.
Because I was like, what happens when the snow hits the propeller? And he's like, it just cuts through it. And I'm like, huh?
Somebody had to just find that out one time.
And I'm like, okay. And he did. It started sinking, and he'd power up a little bit and kind of get up as close to camp as we could on that. And then we get out, and the first thing I do after I step off the skis is all the way to my waist almost.
Wow.
Because we're up on top of the powder.
And it wasn't like heavy snow. It's powder.
Yeah, it was pretty powdery.
Okay.
So then and he has 2 sets of snowshoes strapped to the wings out here on the side, and a shovel or something on there too. But so he's getting the snowshoes ready so we can get up to the cabin. And he's like, when you get these on, go pack down in front of this plane, because he had to go back and get my other buddy in Talkeetna and come back in later, So I go out in front of the plane and pack it down just so he could get going again and take off again. So I'm just
Wow.
out there packing the runway down with my snowshoes
So
on.
you can take off.
Yeah.
So it was, and then we get up to camp and build a fire and shovel out a little bit. And then he's like, I'm going to leave. So he leaves, and it's like 2 hours or so before they come back of just it's not even eerie, just quiet that you've ever heard. Nothing, other than the wood stove crackling
Yeah.
back in there, because there's nothing within like 50 miles
Wow.
of anybody, and nobody knows you're back there. How
Yeah.
crazy is that?
Yeah.
Nobody's coming to look for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't
It just sounds awesome.
Yeah,
it
it
does.
is.
I mean,
And these cabins, Ben grew up back there. His dad and mom homesteaded these cabins. There's this cabin, then there's one more cabin further to the south, or no, the east. They've got 3 cabins up there they use out of their guiding service, but they're all 15 miles apart. So to get anywhere else is 15 miles.
Wow.
And then it's a long ways to town. He told me stories back when they used to use horses. He used to have a pack string of horses he'd ride in from Talkeetna, and it would take him almost a week riding horses to
That
get
sounds
back there.
That sounds like a blast. to
And
me.
he kind of flew that line when we came in, and it's pretty rough. I mean, pretty flat for a little bit, but you know how it is up there. It's
No, I don't. But
well, it's marshy, and then you get all those thickets of just the brush that you
underbrush.
can't even see through or ride
Yeah.
through, and most of it's that way. And then you got to drop down into the river bottoms, and then it's just horrible because you got the down timber, and then you can't impassable rivers and all this stuff, and to get to camp. And he said, yeah, sometimes it would take 4 days, some days it would take 8 days, just to get to one central spot. It's like, holy cow.
Yeah.
And that was just to get the horses to camp so they could start guiding out of camp.
Wow. Just
And
a
he'd be
different
out there
speed of
by
life.
himself,
Yeah.
8 days by yourself just to get to camp. And that's just a norm for those
Yeah.
guys.
Doesn't that sound awesome?
it
though?
does sound great. And I know living in Alaska is no joke.
Yeah.
Even in 2025,
Takes
No,
a different breed.
it takes a different breed of people to live up there. And I'd love to. I mean, we've tossed it around, a time or two moving up there, but
Yeah, you could get a job up there anywhere.
yeah. Well, they're hiring law enforcement all the time. They even do like in some of the northern villages, they'll do like 2.5 weeks on, 2 weeks off type of stuff, and they'll let you come back to even down here to the States or whatever
Oh,
you
wow.
want to do and stuff like that. Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, as far as law enforcement goes, I think having a family would be kind of tough. It's kind of like mining. We
Mhm.
got quite a few miners around here now, especially that mine up there in Alaska, and they're up there 2 weeks and they come home for a couple weeks and go back up. So kind of tough on the family, but
Yeah, it ain't nice.
no, it's just, and I mean, that place has been inhabited for
Could
thousands
be a
of
decent
years.
semi-retirement type job
Yeah.
once
But,
the
like,
kids are out.
I think the pilots up there, I mean, that's got to be an experience on its own because
Yeah.
the bush pilots in Alaska are a different breed.
Yeah, they're
flyers.
totally on
They're
a
flyers.
different realm of existence. Yeah, they have no fear. Yeah, it's I can land there.
Wow.
What do I need? I need 100 feet.
100 feet.
That one looks about 80. That's close enough. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy the way they suit planes up, and
Was it scary taking off when you got in and you're like, well,
It was
are
the
we gonna get off the
first-
ground?
It was the first plane I've been on with skis, but it was
That's wild.
it was pretty quick. I mean, it was right. Those Super Cubs he's got his souped up pretty good, so it takes off pretty quick.
Wow.
And then it was a little tight, 300 pounds in the back seat of a Super Cub's a lot.
You know what? When my kids were young, we used to watch that series. I think it was called Air Alaska.
Yeah,
On
I've seen
Discovery?
that. Yeah,
Used to watch that series all the time.
Yeah.
the
And
crazy
yeah,
native girl.
yeah, a family that just had that airline.
Yeah,
and
no,
they
that
had
was a good show.
Chain of they had a whole ton of bush pilots, and they had regular like larger planes too.
I guess I never watched it.
No, it was a great show.
Great show,
Yep,
man. It was
great
just
show.
kind of like Gold Rush, one of those reality shows.
But it seemed
Oh,
more
yeah.
real. It
it was
because they were laid back and
yes.
just having fun.
but and then the camera would kind of follow certain bush pilots around while they were doing trips into the backcountry. And then the guy who started the company, the dad,
Mhm.
every now and then he'd be like, I need to get out of the office. And he had this souped up Super Cub, and he would go fly trips into the backcountry and do these types of things where they're landing on a little bit of cleared beach of a riverbank.
Yeah.
And then he had this daughter, and she was a crack up, and
they were
I don't
teaching
know.
her how to fly.
yeah, she shouldn't have even been driving a car, and
let alone walking.
yes. And she was like getting her pilot's license, and that was hilarious.
Yeah, it was the fun part of the show. But yeah, she shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Air Alaska, man. I'm sure you could probably still pull that up. They were a great family though.
Huh.
Yeah.
So kind of like ice road truckers.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
airplanes.
Yeah. For
'Cause-
airplanes.
Because up there, after you get up out of, say, Fairbanks and Talkeetna, there's
that
nothing.
family
Yeah.
there.
everything's flown to, Barrow and, those other towns. It's all flown. Because, like, even when I left from Anchorage, people have been sitting in their airport for a couple of days because they couldn't get up to those northern
Oh.
towns because of the weather. They're like,
Yeah.
well, so they sat in the airport for a couple of days because they've been down there doing their shopping,
Mm.
and they'll come down there, do their shopping, and then have all their food shipped up to where they live. So
Yeah, it was incredible how just watching that, discovering that how many people, how basically like people down here in the lower 48 take a bus, they take those little planes, little bush planes
Yeah.
to get home and get out and get around.
yeah, you can
So-
see Talkeetna on that map. It's, north of Anchorage there, and then Sheep River is like where the arrow is. That's Sheep River, I believe, right there. But I don't know. I don't remember how far up there we were when we hit Sheep River. The camp was, but it goes all the way up into the glaciers.
Wow.
So
I need to go.
it was cool. I hope to go back and actually do some hunting or trapping, and the full.
Yeah, the full deal. But I mean, for being a last minute trip, that sounds like a good one.
No, it was good to get away
Yeah.
for 10 days, and I even extended it by a day just so we could stay in the backcountry for an extra day. So
Yeah,
so
it would be hard to come home.
Yeah.
and then come home to the month of February.
Where we're
Yeah.
getting dumped on
Yeah.
more than they are.
They were.
Yeah.
So
That's wild.
yeah.
Yeah,
come
we had a
home to-
wild February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I drove home on, what was it, the 2nd in that one blizzard from Bozeman. Yeah, that was one for the record books driving home that night. That was not good. So I should have stopped, but I pressed through all the way home. And,
Was that the 2nd of February? Not
Yeah.
the 2nd of March.
no, 2nd of February.
Okay.
It was bad.
Wow.
I should have stopped in Livingston and stayed the night. And yeah, it got worse the further east I went. And I got off on Springtime out of Columbus here, and there's a foot of snow in the northbound lane, and I was just breaking snow drifts all the way to Columbus. It was bad.
Wow. Through that whole period, I didn't get out of the house much. I was at home. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think we were sick.
You were.
Both April and I, we were just sick. I want to tell you, it lasted 3 weeks at least of just feeling terrible.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
and then all of a sudden one day I'd be like, oh, I'm getting over it. And I'd get up and get active and all this stuff. And then the next day just feel terrible. It just drug on. I don't know what it was. It was the wildest thing.
Mhm.
And then all the weather was setting in, and I was, it was a weird one.
Cooped
Weird
up
February.
Cooped up too much.
Probably so. Well, I started, hey, instead of doing cold plunge, I started to go out in my robe. At first, I was in the robe. Then I was like, no robe. And luckily we're out in the middle of nowhere because I'm just in my house slippers and some underwear and a beanie and some mittens. That was my
Yeah.
version of cold plunge.
Yeah. Did you see Chris's question there in the chat? Have you heard of Dayton Cabin over by Woodbine?
Dayton Tech. It's not there anymore.
That's the one that the Fish and Game burned down 10, 12 years ago up the Sioux Charlie Trail.
Yeah, it used to be there. And when I was working for Wanda Wilcox for Paintbrush Trails or Ventures, whatever she uses, it used to be there.
Yeah.
And then the Forest Service thought it was an eyesore, so they thought they needed to burn it. And it was one of the only places up there where you could get out of the weather.
Yep.
And it did. It had people's names carved in the logs and stuff, and it wasn't much, but it was enough. If you got stuck in a rainstorm somewhere, you could get out of the rain.
I mean, I remember going to that cabin when we would hike up to Sioux Charlie when we were little, all the time.
Yeah.
And then I remember the summer they burned it down.
Yeah. And there was one other cabin up there that I remember when I was a kid, and I can't remember if Sue Parks' family was part of it, but it was, you come up out of Sioux Charlie and then it kind of turned, and there was a private cabin up in there, and they ended up making them burn their cabin down. And it was a nice cabin.
Was that on the way to Flood Creeks? So past Sioux Charlie? You drop down into Sioux Charlie and then you kind of skirt around the wide spot in the river, and then you start heading towards Flood Creek.
It's when the trail kind of gets away from it was right, and then you kind of went back to the north just a little bit there, but it was back up in the trees and you never seen it. So, but or maybe it was a motorcycle club. I don't remember what it was back in the day, but they made them burn it down too. And
there's still that cabin, Wepler's cabin up in Deer Creek.
Yep.
I know that one's still there.
Yep.
There's a couple on the backside of Picket Pen.
I know where
over by Brass Monkey and stuff.
I broke down up there one year.
Yeah.
Yep. Right next to it, and you couldn't see it. The guy that went in like a week later to help me get my truck out, he's like, "Hey, did you know there's a cabin right here?" And they had a spring right there, and they had pipe water right through. Yep. Yeah, it was right there, and you couldn't even see it. Yeah. It was crazy.
So I know if Chris wants to come up here, you can rent out the Forest Service cabin at Myers Creek during the summer.
Myers Creek,
the
one in the Deer Creeks.
Yep.
It used to be Sunny Todd, but they call it
what do they call
the
that?
Deer Creek cabin.
Is there much of a waiting list on those?
Sometimes you can call Fish and Game and get in there that weekend.
Yeah, it depends.
Wow. Hunting season, they're full.
Yeah,
time of the year.
Yeah,
it's like $25 or something.
Yeah, it's not bad. We rented some cabins. We used to hunt over in the Gravelly Range. It'd be in the Gravelly Range, Madison Mountain Range over in southwest Montana. And we a couple of years rented a cabin up there that the Forest Service had built. They're nothing big, but it's kind of nice. Some years we would do that, but
no, that'd be awesome. We've been wanting to do some Forest Service cabins, but
there's a lot more than you think. You got to get and kind of look. There's some
of them are like
Red Lodge. There might be,
but some of them get booked out like a year or two in advance. Like
you
can't even get into them.
There's one up the West Fork of the Boulder.
Yeah,
down there, just right past the campground.
The one up Deer Creeks. I know a lot of people.
All this talk's getting me in the mood for it. Want some wood smoke?
Yeah.
Spring's coming, man.
It's coming.
It is.
Yeah, and my uncle's cabin is only 5 or 6 miles to the northwest of that Deer Creek's cabin on the upper Deer Creeks, not the main Deer Creek. It's on the upper Deer Creek. Yeah, so I go back in there a bunch, and there ain't nothing there either. It's a self-contained cabin.
Wow.
You go in there and have fun, get away. There's no cell service, no nothing.
Go up there and read some. I'd go up there and. Are you hearing a sound?
Yeah.
Some Jeremiah Johnson or something.
Yeah, right. I know. We've actually both been reading about Tom LaForge in his book called Memoirs of a White Crow Indian.
Yeah.
Isn't that the name of the whole book?
You should read it, dude. You'd like it.
You were talking.
It's a great book.
Man. And you would probably recognize so many of the areas that he's talking about. That's what makes that thing. Like I could recognize somewhat, but you guys would know what the heck.
Oh, I knew. I mean, there were places that he was talking about, even when he was either with the Montana column, and in the book, the Montana column, when they came through here, I recognized places they were talking about in there too.
Wow.
So I just got the 60 Years on the Plains.
Yeah.
Bill Hamilton book.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to read that probably tomorrow because it's not a long read.
It's not.
And I know it's got stuff from this area too.
Yeah.
So
I know you wanted to get into the N-Bar Ranch.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Okay, I'm gonna go take a leak real quick though
Okay.
before you do that.
sounds
right.
good. But before we get into that, I guess.
Yeah.
So
I know. Normally when we're just recording, we'll just like stop and go, but
we're live.
since we're going live here. April
I'll-
says she stayed at the one in the Boulder on the Forest Service
I don't know where that one is, but it's I've been doing a lot of work up the East Boulder, and that's some pretty cool country,
Yeah.
going up in there.
Oh, that's beautiful up in
Yeah.
there.
And you can take some of that. There's a trail up at the end by the East Boulder mine up there, and it'll take you back up to somewhere all those old timers did a bunch of claim work and stuff up in there,
Wow.
because you had Independence up the main boulder, but then they joined somewhere up in there, and they had some pretty good strikes up in that country.
So I've been up I think the main Boulder. We went camping up there one time, and then we took our 4-wheelers and we went all the way to the end, and then you start climbing.
Yeah.
And there's like an old mine up at the top up
Yeah,
there. And
that's
there's a lake back
that's
behind.
Independence. And I
Okay.
don't know what the lake is, but
Yeah. There was a little lake up there, and it was cold up there. It was the summertime, but
Yeah.
it was cold.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool country.
That's incredible up in there. I wouldn't really call it a road.
Well, the road to Independence is almost impassable. It's just boulders.
Oh, it was. We were crawling over it with a 4-wheeler. So
We drove up there one year in a pickup, and
mackerel.
we were hunting, and we were just up there, and we were like, well, maybe we'll see an elk, and we pull into the old, town of Independence up there, and they guide up out of there too. Outfitter does, and we're driving through that little settlement there, and they had a big, huge wall tent. I mean, I think they had a few like tents with cots in them, and then they had like a main cook tent. Sorry, and my friend Wanda was standing out in front of her tent because she ended up cooking for one of the outfitters up there, and I'm like, all the places you'd see someone and it's in the middle of nowhere
up in those mountains.
Yeah, so we stopped and we went in and had a couple cups of coffee with her.
No.
She's so great. Wanda's
Wow.
such a great
Oh yeah,
lady.
she is.
Yeah, so it was
So what was the name of this ranch again?
the N-Bar Ranch.
The N-Bar Ranch, and who owned it?
The Wilkes brothers from Texas. And there is some, bad press on them, and I'm not.
Were these guys, you were saying, kind of like the forefront of fracking?
Yes, they are the what I know, they are the ones that first came up with the process of extracting oil from, the oil fields was fracking,
Yeah.
when you went in and then went horizontal.
Zach's got the N-Bar Ranch
Yeah.
pulled up there in Grass Range, Montana.
Yep.
It's even before they owned it, it was an iconic ranch in Montana. The
Wow.
N-Bar was very iconic. I don't know if they.
And do you have any idea of how large that ranch was? How many acres?
The main N-Bar back in the day was only 150,000 acres.
Only.
Only.
Holy
And then
mackerel.
they
That's
bought
basically Rhode Island.
Then they bought the neighboring ranch. Dang it. That name of that ranch is escaping me. But altogether in Montana, they had like 320,000 acres.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I believe they were the largest landowners. The Pronghorn. The Pronghorn Ranch bordered the N-Bar to the south, closer
Okay.
to Roundup. And then they bought up a bunch of property south of the Snowy Mountains going to the west. And then I worked on a unit on Careless Creek north of Shawmut. And that was like 50,000 acres, just that little piece.
Wow.
And for most people, 50,000 acres,
That's a big
That's a
ranch.
big ranch. Even in Montana, 50,000 acres is a huge ranch.
That is.
And we mainly ran, we had like 400 mother cows, and then we run most of the yearlings and developed the heifers over there for rebuilding the ranch. Every year you got to get rid of cows, and then you got to add cows, so we were we were growing the next generation of cows for the ranch at this ranch.
Wow. I guess so. You should tell Cole, if you haven't told him already. We should tell him right now about that place. You said there's actually an old stage stop
There is
on that ranch.
No, you've told me that before.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it is so cool when you go out there.
Like a literal old 1800s stage stop.
It's got the barns still there. It's got the lodging barns and build cabins, and it's all still there. You know, the roofs, some of the roofs have caved in because they've had sod roofs on everything. But
Yeah.
there's 2 huge barns that are still there, and then a bunch of windbreaks, and I'm sure if you went out there with a metal detector, you'd find a whole chest full of cool stuff.
Yeah.
And it's in the perfect spot. You know, it's halfway between.
You left there on good terms?
Oh yeah.
I just want to go out and see it. That's all I want to do.
A road trip.
Right.
And back in the day when they did the stagecoach deals, they only went like 10 or 15 miles before they had,
had
switched.
to change out.
Yeah. So this was like halfway between. I think this one, you would think it would be Rygate was like the stage stop, but I think it was actually Lavina was where they came from, and then stopped there, and then from there it was to Judith Gap. But it was so cool when I first seen that and those buildings, and I spent a lot of time out there just wandering around looking at things. I shot my best antelope buck out there after 3 years when they allowed us to actually hunt antelope out there.
Really?
I'd seen this buck for 3 years, and I shot him to the east of there. And he was just an old timer just hanging out, and he'd be in that same area every time I'd go out and feed my heifers and stuff. And it was cool, but I can't remember the name of the stage stop. It starts with an H.
It's not Harrison.
Nope. There's a road that leads to it, and
if it does come to you later, we should look it up on the Montana Historical Society's website.
A Wheatland County historical deal did a deal on it. The Wheatland County Historical Society did a deal on a stage stop north of Hedgesville, because Hedgesville was the town right there on the railroad, because the railroad came just south of where my house was, that came through there, and then Hedgesville was right there. And that, back in the day, that was actually a pretty good sized town for Montana, because it was right on the tracks.
Yeah,
I believe they don't quote me on this, they had like a tractor manufacturer in Hedgesville, of all places.
really,
Something like that. Yeah. And there's a book on that too. And
it's so interesting out in these rural areas, how there's been like really good sized towns that have just come and gone.
Even Rappelje used to be bigger than Columbus.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty wild. You go out there now and you look at
nothing.
it. You're just like,
I mean, what is there? A couple hundred people up there?
Not
can't
even. I mean, there's only 50 some kids pre-K through 12 in the school.
In town, yeah.
In town, I want to say there's 15 families.
Yeah.
20 families total in town out there.
Wow. So yeah, it's pretty small.
Yeah.
But it used to be big.
Well, yeah, it had 2 hotels, 2 or 3 banks.
I can't even picture it.
Yeah, dance hall. Well, the whole thing, most of the town was west or east of the highway.
Really?
Yeah. And it all burned down.
And then they just rebuilt on the other
And
side.
then they
of the
started
road.
building it over on the west side of the highway there. But a lot of the town was east of the highway. I came across an old flyer from 1920 when they were trying to sell plots in town. And it talks about all the wheat and the farming and stuff out there, and the bushel. It talks about how many bushels of wheat they got when they were over in Chicago when they trained the wheat down there and everything like that. It was pretty cool.
Wow. I hate to bring it back to that Catholic church, but you're familiar with that Catholic church out there?
I am. I know where it's at.
We got to go out there.
I drive by it a few times a year.
Really?
Mhm.
Is it a pretty cool looking place?
Yeah. Inside is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was telling them turn it into an Airbnb.
So
They're trying to figure out what to do with it, because apparently the church still owns it, but they don't really maintain it.
Yeah.
And so this lady that's been maintaining it, and there's a cemetery with it. And but they're just really trying to figure out what to do with it out there. They don't know how to keep it going, how to take care of it, and all that other kind of stuff. But so I've been I was talking to her. They were like, "Hey, do you have any ideas about how we could take care of this place?" So
Yeah.
I was like, "I don't know if I don't mean to be sacrilegious here, but I would Airbnb." I don't know what the protocol is there with the church, but if the church is going to let the place go, how do you maintain something like
I
that
don't know.
that's off the beaten path out there? And unless you can generate funds to take
Yeah.
care of this place. So then I thought, I even suggested it. I said, what if this place could it be kicked over, donated to the museum? Could the museum use it as an event center out there? Could you put like an outdoor area that's partly covered? Could you turn it into a wedding event center? That's not going to be for everybody, but some people might like that rural, out in the middle of nowhere, church, wedding event center type place.
Yeah,
So,
it's a cool. I've been inside
really?
of it a couple of different times. Yeah, for different things. I've actually met people there when I was working patrol at the sheriff's office, and it was a good place to meet to talk about stuff or whatever, investigations, that kind of thing that were happening out there. Zach, look up Antelope Stage Stop. And I don't know if it's the one, Shelby, that's on the M bar, but there's an Antelope Stage Stop out north out there.
Wow.
Between Lavina and Shawmut, that area. So it might be it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really cool building.
Huh.
So
Well, I was thinking we should do a little trip out there, and I don't know that it's worth shooting a big feature video on. If there's a good story about it, though, I thought if we could find the story on that, then that might be a fun. Oh, and
that's the Antelope Stage Stop that I was talking about.
And is that okay?
Is that it, Shelby? That's out in that country.
Antelope Stage Station. You were saying it starts with an H, though.
No, it starts with an H.
You sure?
Yeah.
Oh, because this one's out in that country too.
Oh, that one is in Montana. That
Antelope. Yeah, that's over by Lavina, I think.
I would have to. I've got the old maps at my house.
It's just kick that thing underneath. There you go. There it is,
and it's out there.
Yeah,
I was trying to look it up on Onyx because then there's a road out to it, and it's got the name, but my Onyx isn't.
By, like, Broadview.
Which one is Antelope?
Yeah, it's like by Broadview, between Broadview and Comanche.
When you were down in Midland,
so it's closer to Billings.
When you're down in Midland, Texas, did you ever picture yourself sitting up in red curtained
Columbus,
podcast
Montana.
studio looking up old stage stations in Montana?
April said that Hedgeville was originally called Yale, Montana.
Really?
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Well, how does she?
Yeah, you have to ask her how she knows that.
Yeah, I don't even know her.
So yeah, we'll definitely go out there to that church. There's so many cool things out north.
When there's some good, how they'll get like some good like spring storms.
Yes,
we should go out there with dramatic skies, big storm clouds in the distance, but sunny skies over here to the side, and then in an evening light, and go shoot that thing with a drone and whatever else we could shoot that thing with, and go tell the story of that place.
Yeah, let's do it.
No, it gets some cool storms out.
Yeah.
And here you go, because you were talking about how the prairies are so beautiful, and that's where you want to be. There are some pretty cool deals about the prairie, because you can watch those storms roll over the mountains, and then you can watch those thunderstorms grow as they come across the prairie, and then pretty soon they widen out.
Yeah.
And you can watch the thunder growing up in the heads of them, and there is some crazy things about the prairies.
And I came up here from the desert, from southern Nevada, and you think, oh, I just got to be up in the pine trees. But once I got up here and I realized there's some beautiful spaces out in that open grasslands, and we'll be out there, and April will just be like, this is ugly out here, because she grew up here. And I'm like, no, you don't have no clue
what ugly is.
Yeah, you don't know what ugly is. So anyway, but to be out in some of those places, and then I was track inspecting for a while up on the High Line, which is all prairie up there, and to come into some of those little towns, and there's just grain elevators. I saw some real pretty sights in the evenings and early mornings. I don't know, just neat territory with those open spaces and that grass. Wow, we're lagging bad. I
Are we?
apologize, folks. We've really tried to get the fastest internet we could here, and it's kind of an issue.
We'll have to work on that some.
I know. We're gonna have to figure it out, or we're
because
just gonna have
some
to.
of our other live feeds haven't been like that, so I don't know why it's doing it.
Bad.
But-
So
See, it's the exact opposite for me. I've been trying, and we had the chance to move out to Rappeljay when I came back to Montana, and at the time, I was all for it. Shasta was like, "Well, I don't know," and now she's like, "I don't have very many regrets. One of those is not buying that house outside of Rappeljay."
yeah,
I got one of those regrets.
You know,
Do you?
do you?
Yeah.
The old G Ranch there off of, I think Jack Meyer's dad bought that place. It's
Yeah.
right off the. It was like $320,000, and it comes with like 320 acres or something
Yeah.
right there. And I was thinking about it back when I first started mine, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna buy that," and I was like, "Nah, can't." 320. That's a lot of money. Now it's worth, who knows what it's worth out there,
Yeah. There's a
Yeah.
there's some house with some land that came
I
for
can't
sale out there,
fathom that kind of space.
and
Yeah.
if I could figure out a way, because it's only a few miles outside of Applegate, but it's for sale right now, and I'm just like, if I could figure it out, dude.
It would be awesome though to
You
just
know.
just go walk around. Like you can't hardly do, I don't know, unless you're farm and everything, but you can't hardly do anything with all that space. But just to go walk around all that property and have those quiet moments out on your own place, and that you're on your own place, that'd be
Mhm.
worth it.
I think it's called the Helbert stage stop.
Helbert,
Albert.
Something like that. Helbert.
Zach, we're after the Helbert station. He's already over it. I didn't even have to say his name.
That name finally came. I think it's called the Helbert or something
Huh.
like that.
Yeah, and I love out north. I mean, I'm
Oh,
out
we're
there as
already
much as I
zooming in
can.
on something.
Pulls up antelope.
Oh, went to Antelope.
Yeah, let me look.
But I think that's closer to Billings. The
Lavina,
antelope.
isn't Lavina? Was that the story of those riders from the '79 ranch that they said they hung 18 rustlers?
18 wrestlers at Lavina.
At what? And that was before it was even Lavina.
And
He says at what is now Lavina, we hung 18 rustlers.
and
in
wasn't
one day.
it people they knew?
One of them.
them was. Yes.
Yeah.
One of their riders knew he was a school chum, is what it says, with one of the rustlers, and they said he wouldn't pull him up, and they pulled pistols on their own man
Mhm.
and said, "You either pull him up or you'll be pulled up with him." And
Yep.
then it just said he pulled. Wow. And what that means by he pulled is they used to take their ropes, lasso, put it on the guy, put it on his neck, and they'd throw it up over a branch or whatever they're throwing it up over, and then tie it down to the saddle horn, and they would ride away, pull them up, and yeah,
And then you had to
Incredible.
stop the horse. Let
Yeah.
the guy
yeah, dude,
let
finish
the rope,
out.
Let the rope do its thing.
Wow, that's incredible.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm sending you a picture on your phone.
All right,
It might have went through. That is a picture of me and my friend in front of one of the barns.
Got
that's there.
what? I'm
Yeah.
sending this to Zach. Zach,
Did you get it?
then get this shipped off and get to Shutterfly and get this framed
it
before the end of the
they're
podcast.
cool barns.
This is a cool photo. Should be coming at you, Zach. If you could pull that up and put it on the screen.
but
Actually, I could have probably. No, I probably couldn't. Look at that,
I mean that's
man. Hey, has your wife seen this?
that picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does this do to her, man?
Is that Mr.
does
Is
half-
that Mr. Dreamy?
If it does half of what it's doing for me, holy
That's
moly!
that's his mountain man name.
Yes,
Mr.
Mr. Dreamy.
Mr. Dreamy.
Mr. Dreamy.
Oh,
And then he was going to be in one of those the old
there he is.
the old
Wait, nope. That hasn't shown up on screen yet, has it?
No.
Okay. He's up. There we go. There he is. You're on the right, correct?
I wonder if you spelt Helbert wrong. I can't remember how it was spelled.
I put
Does that show up? Is that showing up on
that's
the live
showing
stream?
up. That is cool. That's
That's a great photo, man.
that is cool.
We need that on canvas hanging in here in the studio.
we went out there after we branded, and we were just dinking around. I wanted to show him because it was cool.
Yeah.
Cool, So when I was working there, I had to show as many people as I could.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That is cool.
So
And that's at that stage stop.
yeah, that's the most intact barn right there that still
Man.
has a good roof. It had a huge owl inside that thing. I mean, one of those big.
I'm getting Hateful Eight vibes here.
Oh,
What a
I've
great
got
movie.
I've got some change hidden under a rock up in that country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is, dude. That's worth the whole podcast right there.
Yeah, that was our
It's that.
thumbnail.
Should have been.
Shelby was holding out on us.
I know.
So,
And how long did you work at the?
Dude, the viewers are going to be asking for a Shelby calendar after that.
I worked there, I think 3 years. I worked for the N Bar. It was good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is
Built-
that what it like the area looked like?
Nope.
So when I type in Helper, it just automatically zooms in on antelope,
Yeah,
which is weird.
that looks like a rundown ranch.
I wonder, I don't know. We'll have to maybe look it up later, but I was thinking if we did go to the Montana Historical Society and see if they had anything on it. But
Maybe.
I don't know.
I would
That's
assume
another-
Wheatland County has some kind of record.
That's
of
probably
it.
another rabbit hole.
I'm
Zach.
actually
Sorry.
zooming in and on it on Onyx, but I don't know if I can give you a pin. It's right there. I have it right there.
If you can pull up and if you've got GPS on it,
See your map, and I'll pull it up on my map.
You'll have to zoom out, but I finally zoomed in on it.
Yeah.
It took forever because I don't have
there you go.
good
Good
service.
service
here.
in here.
Yeah,
See if I can zoom in.
yeah.
But-
Take that. And,
But you can see the buildings and everything. It's all still there.
That's cool.
do you guys like that movie Hateful Eight?
I do.
That's
It's
a
all
great
right.
flick.
It's not
It's
as
all
good.
right.
It's not
all
as
right.
good as Django.
Yeah,
I don't think
Django's
it's as
good.
good as Django.
Did you guys watch American Primeval
I did not.
on Netflix?
Okay.
Dude.
Okay. So I was in the other room trying to I was trying to edit. I was trying to make videos. I was sick too.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not in the mood to edit. And April binge watched American Primeval in the other room without me.
Yeah.
And I would- yes. And there's just like every 30 seconds, there's just gunshots and screaming in the other room for like 2 days. She powered through.
Wow.
And
you'd watched it before?
no,
Or-
I hadn't seen it. I'd come in there. I would kind of be out of the loop. Anyway, she powered through it and watched it, and she liked it. It was pretty intense. But so you finished it?
Oh yeah, Shasta and I watched it like in 2 days.
Oh, okay. So my whole family's all LDS.
Mhm.
Okay, so whereas that show, and that was your guy Peter Berg made that.
Yeah, Peter Berg
yeah.
made
Did
that,
you
yeah.
see him on Rogan talking about that?
I haven't watched that.
Okay, there's a whole
Rogan
segment
one.
on Rogan about him talking about that,
Yeah.
the history of it. It was super interesting to watch that because one thing I'm not very good about Mormon church stuff, as in being a Mormon, but I am really big on church history.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and then not that you even got to be into big into church history to know that he got some things wrong in that podcast, but he got a few things. Then it wasn't a big deal, but he got a few things wrong. He shows love and respect toward the Mormons anyway, but it was super interesting because American Primeval touches on the Mountain Meadow Massacre, which really did happen in 1857.
Really?
Yes. And
Oh yeah, that did happen.
yes. And
Is that
that
what that was based off of?
so it's in that show. Did you see that show?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so in that show, he kind of takes a bunch of stuff that it did happen. Basically, he does make, and he says it in the Rogan podcast that he kind of made Brigham Young look gangster. And he's like, I think he was gangster. He goes, I kind of respect him for how gangster he was. Was he like this? No, probably not. But this is how we made him.
He wasn't a hand crossed.
He wasn't. Yeah, they kind of make
in
him.
church. He wasn't. He was a gangster.
Yeah, he was just like they don't bring it up in the show, okay, but Peter Berg does mention it that in all of his research. They mentioned the problems that the Mormons had back east in Illinois and Missouri. There was actually an execution order that was in effect until 1979. It was perfectly legal to kill a Mormon on sight in the state of Missouri.
Wow.
It didn't get rescinded until in the 1970s. The state had to pass a bill to rescind that order from Governor Boggs. And they actually sent a representative out to Utah to formally apologize to the church. But anyway, so the Mormons had gone through a bunch of problems in Illinois, Missouri. They'd been burned out.
Go north. Go north, Zach. Go north.
Go north, Zach.
Just a little further. Further.
Anyway.
Now zoom in.
He's almost onto it, huh?
He's getting closer.
Well, they
Right, and now go to the east. Just
did you find it?
We're gonna find it.
All right. So they had there was a bunch of bad blood. They had been burned out. There was the Hans Mill massacre. Now, the Hans Mill massacre was a town of or a settlement of Hans Mill, and a bunch of Missouri raiders came in, and these are basically just guys who got together who were like, let's get rid of these people. They're moving in here. They're becoming a voting bloc. And I get it. Like, hey, if we had a bunch of people that all of a sudden started to move in, they're from a religious group that is starting to take over as far as politics and being able to vote how they want to vote, they felt threatened by it. So, but they handled it through some pretty extreme violence. They raided Hans Mill one time, and they went in, and a lot of the settlers ran into this mill, this building that the barn had planks that you could stick a rifle barrel between the planks, and they killed everybody inside, men, women, children.
Wow.
Okay. So anyway, there was a lot of bad blood that happened in Missouri and Illinois. So the Mormons then are like, let's just get out of here. Let's head west. And they go out there. And that was in the 1840s. They headed out to Utah. Okay. Anyway, that's the bad blood that Peter Berg does kind of reference in the Rogan podcast that, there was all these things that happened. And then once the Mormons settled out there and they'd set up all kinds of towns all through Utah, then all these other wagon trains are coming through in the late, 1840s and into the 1850s for the gold rush in California. And that's when there was a wagon train from Arkansas that came through Southern California. The other problem that was starting to happen was the Mormon War. And that was Jim Bridger was butting heads with Brigham Young. And he reported back to Washington that, hey, Brigham Young is starting to kind of get, full of himself out here, and he's starting to muscle people. And there's kind of an uprising. Well, it's about the same time was the Mountain Meadow Massacre. And this wagon train had come through. I don't know I haven't really studied it as well as I should. I should read some books on it. But what I do know of it is that the wagon train came through because they were already knew the U.S. Army was coming out to quell the Mormon rebellion. Brigham Young put out to all the settlements, hey, we're going to need everything, all of our own provisions. So don't help anybody from the outside. We're going to need all this stuff for ourselves. So when this wagon train came through and they were like, they wanted to trade, everybody was like, no, we're not trading with you. And they got snarky about it. And there was a lot of smack talking that went on. Anyway, I won't give you a whole history of the Mountain Meadow Massacre, but it was bad. They basically wiped out this wagon train. There was very few survivors.
Yeah.
They put the local Ute Indians up to it. They said, hey, do you guys want to... And the controversy is whether Brigham Young knew about it, whether he ordered them to clean this thing up or not. And so the controversy is, did he have enough time to know? Could they get a rider up to Salt Lake City in time and then get word all the way back down? Because where this happened between Cedar City and St. George, just out to the west.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And they talked to Ute Indians. They said, hey, will you go, if you guys want, you can go if you wipe out this wagon train, you guys can keep whatever you get, whatever you get. So they started to attack it, but they entrenched themselves pretty good and defended themselves pretty good. Eventually they're like, oh boy, we got a mess out here. So the locals went in and said, hey, we will try to protect you from these bad Indians. And they said, we will, hey, look, we got to split you guys up, but we're going to try to get you guys out of here. And they split up the men from the women and children and things. And they turned on them and they wiped everybody out. Yeah. And so the crime scene basically is about 5 miles wide or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This is like, and all the men got taken over here and taken out. All the women and children were over here and got taken out. And there were some young survivors that then got adopted into local families.
Mhm.
And then some of them actually made it back east to Arkansas to be raised by relatives. Anyway, so it was a big mess. And, but the controversy is whether or not did the church
know about
sanction
it?
this
Yeah.
or not. Okay. Brigham Young denied it.
Yeah.
That he's like, no, I didn't have any part in this. So there's actually a place out there on the Colorado River called Lee's Ferry that I grew up just hearing about Lee's Ferry. I've been to Lee's Ferry several times. I didn't realize that Lee was the guy who was actually the only person who was prosecuted and executed for the Mountain Meadow Massacre. And so I can't remember his first name right now, but I've been to Lee's Ferry several times, and it's a crossing down on the Colorado River that he had set up. But he was the ringleader, supposedly, or he took the fall in 1873. When they finally got around to it, they needed a fall guy for this. And so basically
Lee Oswald.
yeah, he was the Lee Harvey Oswald of the day.
Yeah.
And so they shot him. They executed him, and he took the fall, and then it all kind of got brushed under the. So now there's a monument there, and the monument is fully financed by and maintained by the church.
Really?
And it's and it's several miles long, and there's a trail system, and there's all these interpretive signs that show everything. And I read also, or I saw somewhere, that even in 2017 there was remains found in 2017, like a skull.
Wow.
Really?
You know, under a sagebush.
Damn.
That's crazy to think about.
150 something people got wiped out.
Yeah.
And so
It's crazy that it lasted that long.
Yeah.
Because I had a horse skull in my front yard that's been there for like 10 or 12 years, and it finally kind of decomposed in this last snow.
Yeah.
And,
it's pretty wild. They still find bones and remnants out at the Little Bighorn, you know?
Huh.
So who knows? I don't understand how that all works, but yeah.
So, I mean, but
that's all in American Primeval.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit Hollywoodized, I think, and all the violence and everything is kind of condensed.
Yeah.
But
which most Hollywood movies are. I mean, Peter Berg did Lone Survivor.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
I mean, I met Marcus Luttrell. And so, I mean, and I've read the book, and I've visited with him, and there's stuff in the movie that's Hollywood. I mean, but they're going to do that for anything. But what I liked about American Primeval is that it portrayed, I mean, like we all grew up watching John Wayne, and I love John Wayne movies, but that's not the West. No. I mean, American Primeval shows how dirty it was and how
even though it was condensed into these episodes, it was very representative of the type of violence that did happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that's what I did like about it. And Peter Berg is an amazing director and director. So,
and you can see in the Rogan, I want to hear what you have to say after the Rogan segment, because I mean, you're not going to be surprised by it, but he did try to, be honest to the time, and you can see that when he's in that interview, he's kind of explaining it and the research that he went through. So you got to hand it to him. Even though, I come from a long background of LDS Mormons that basically crossed the plains. You've
traced it back that far?
My mom has traced it back into the 3 digits, like, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, the 800s, the 900s. Like, so my mom's about genealogy.
I know we're going to get off on the rabbit hole there, but where did LDS, I mean, it started with Brigham Young, but they were here before that. Or John Smith, I'm sorry.
Joseph Smith. Right.
Wasn't that in Indiana?
That was Pennsylvania, wasn't it?
It was. So he was from upper New York. Okay, so that's where he was from.
But that's not the single digit. Period.
No.
Oh, your family.
No, she has our genealogy book way back.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But LDS started with Joseph Smith.
Yes, but they won't say that they started. They won't say that they started there. What they will say is this, and this is the only thing that not the only thing, but I guess, but one of the things that I would say that Peter Berg said in the Joe Rogan thing that Mormons won't say is correct. I'm not going to say that it wasn't correct, but I'm saying that Mormons won't say it is correct, is that he said that Joseph Smith wrote his version of the Bible, but that's not what he did. What he did was he translated gold plates that into the Book of Mormon.
That
so
wasn't
the Book of Mormon wasn't the Bible. It's a separate record of a people that were in the Americas. So the Bible
separate
covers what happened in the Middle East and that period, and yet the Book of Mormon covers what was going on in the Americas.
Because wasn't the gold tablets brought by one of the archangels?
No,
wasn't it?
No. So the plates were actually, I guess so the plates were, there was a family. This is the story of the Book of Mormon. There was a family who was there was a prophet 600 years before Christ. Okay. Were told to leave Jerusalem and that Jerusalem would be destroyed. And so this family left, they built,
where'd they go?
To the Americas.
They
basically wandered in the wilderness for however many years. They went and got other people that came with them, and they built craft, and they basically set out on the ocean in craft that they couldn't even navigate, and they ended up washing up on the shores of the Americas. And then it's the story of these family and their
pilgrimage,
their offspring. I can't remember the right word, but anyway, it's that these people came, but they weren't the first one in the Americas, because when they got to the Americas, they found others who had already been here. And so, but it's this history of them 600 years BC up and beyond Christ coming to the world and being crucified.
Gotcha.
And that during the crucifixion whole thing, that when he's gone for 3 days, the Mormons believe that he actually appeared here in the Americas and taught the people in the Americas and showed them, like, I have been crucified, for your sins, and I've been a sacrifice, yada, yada. So anyway, so that's where Peter Berg is saying, oh, Joseph Smith wrote his version of the Bible. No, Mormons believe this is a completely separate record of a different people and their experiences here, and, yada, yada, yada. So how the Mormons will tell you is that no, Joseph Smith didn't start this church. He restored Christ's church, and that Christ taught these people, in his during his lifetime for a short period of time, and that they had about 200 years of basically adherence to God's plan and God's word and just righteousness. And then after time they got soft again, and like the younger generation started to forget. And then one group of people, or of all that offspring, one group ended up wiping out the other group. They ended up falling into sin and battling back and forth in wars. And then these plates were a record of all of these things that then get buried in upstate New York. And then so Joseph Smith is a young boy who's like, I don't know how we got into this whole history thing here. Sorry about all this.
No,
it's crazy.
We're
going with it.
Okay. Sorry about this, but
don't be at all.
Okay. So then
interesting.
Basically he's 14 years old. There's a religious revival going on in New York, upstate New York. There's people coming through, having big camps and trying to recruit people. Hey, join our church. Hey, join our church. Anyway, he's like, I feel weird about all this. I don't know which church to join. So he reads in the Bible how, hey, if you lack faith, just pray and ask of God. So he prays, and then he's told, he's told, don't join. He's struck with a vision and a visit saying, hey, don't join any of these churches. All right. It's whatever. And then he goes out into the woods to pray, and he gets a visitation there that says basically, hey, there's going to come a time where you're going to restore a record. Okay. So anyway, that's how they look at it, as in it's Christ's church that was restored, not him just starting a religion. That's how they look at that. So yeah, other people, obviously they'll bag on them and say, oh, they're not even Christians. Whereas they look at it like, no, we're the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Everything is based around Christ. And so then anyway, he was persecuted. They were all persecuted. Everybody thought they were a bunch of wackos. He was eventually murdered in Carthage, Illinois. And then in jail, he was in jail, and a big mob came out one night, and
That was Joseph Smith.
Joseph Smith, his brother Hiram Smith. There was actually 2 other guys.
Because Brigham Young was wanted.
So
by
Brigham
the
Young was like
government for something too when he got into Utah.
Once he got into Utah, so Brigham Young was one of his top guys. Was like kind of like his main, like his second or his right hand man. Okay, so after he died, the family kind of was like, wait a minute, his son Samuel, I can't remember if it was Samuel or not, but should be their prophet of the church. And everybody else was like, no, this doesn't work like that, And so anyway, there was kind of a power struggle, and eventually people kind of fell in line behind Brigham Young. And so they had already kind of started the plan of like, we need to get out of here and head west, and we need to go west. So they started out with wagon, like they didn't have enough livestock, and so they built hand carts, and they started building hand carts to pull their stuff in a 2-wheel hand cart that they would, a husband and wife would be behind a bar that behind them is 2 wheels and a big box with their stuff back there, and they would push this stuff, and they would head out west, and that's how they crossed the plains.
That's a lot of ambition.
Yeah, it is.
Oh man,
interesting story. John Browning Firearms.
Yeah.
So Browning was a blacksmith in Nauvoo, Illinois, and he was asked by Brigham Young to stay behind and to help. I've been to Browning's first original blacksmith shop. It's still in Nauvoo, Illinois.
Wow,
that's cool.
Yeah. And so he actually stayed behind and was a blacksmith that helped prepare more hand carts for everybody who's migrating to the west. So once he got out to the west, he was actually a polygamist, and I can't remember how many wives he had, but then one of his sons was John Browning. His name was John Browning, and then he had a son named John Browning, and that's where we get Browning Firearms from.
It's from the sun.
Is from the sun. Wow. Yeah, that's a fascinating story too. So anyway, it's been a long time, but I used to dive deep into church history because it is pretty fascinating. There's a lot of action in there and a lot of controversial things. So when April was watching that show, I can't help but like dip in there and go, that's not true.
Yeah.
That's not how,
kind of like I do with law enforcement movies, cop movies.
Yeah.
They don't do that.
No,
they're not going to go into a house like that.
Yeah.
Why are they parking there?
Yeah.
Shaz is like, shut up and watch the movie.
Yes, that's how I was too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? Even though anyway, I respect all religions. I don't like anybody being shown in the wrong light or in inaccuracies. I show respect to all religions, whether I believe in them, whether I don't believe in them. I think that the people that follow those religions, they have a right to whatever they want to believe, whatever fills that void inside of them that feels like they need that. Like, I respect that, whether it's Mormons or non-Mormons or anybody else out there. So it kind of bugs me when things get misrepresented of any religion.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got off on a huge tangent on American Primeval.
Heck yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, you need to watch it though if you haven't seen it.
Yeah,
it's good. So, they did a pretty good job with Jim Bridger. That guy that played Jim Bridger did a really good job.
They did.
So
yeah.
But
Jim Bridger is another one I want to read a lot more about too.
Yeah.
And I haven't read just specifically on Jim Bridger.
There's about 4 or 5 really good books on him, but there's a lot of same, like this author will say that this, but then this was like, no, that author's wrong. This is actually what Jim Bridger did. But I've read a couple books on him back when I was younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to find a good one. Add it to my list. I got a book of Chief Plentycoo I haven't even gotten to.
My wife's reading it right now.
Which one?
The Plentycoo one.
Really?
Yeah, she says it's great.
Man, now you're firing me up.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to.
She got it at the museum too. And
yes, I have it. I got it at the museum.
Which one is this?
It's on Chief Plentycoo.
Yeah, I got it in my office.
She's reading it. It's a very good book.
Wow.
Yeah. That was the one thing about the LaForge book that I loved was the Crow history.
Really?
I mean, but I've always really liked Crow history, and I was like, because Clay worked over there for a while in Bighorn County, and I was like, I want to go work over there, but I was like, dude, there's some you could like really get into the history stuff over there and the Crow language.
Yeah.
and they talk about how Absaroka is actually, the interpretation. He talks about, Tom LaForge talks about the interpretation of
He does.
how the Americans call, or the whites call him the Crow,
and how
it's
it
not right.
wasn't right.
Yeah, that was a really good part of the book, and I hope we touch on that with Penny.
Yeah.
When we talk about
Yeah.
it. But,
We'll have to.
that the historical part of the Crow, and how they just the everyday life, this type of stuff in the Tom LaForge book was really, really interesting to me.
Yeah.
And his take on it as being, he was white,
But he was
just
all in.
He was as native could get for
Yeah.
being a white guy.
Yeah.
And I think Mitch Boyer was pretty much the same way.
Yeah. And Mitch Boyer was part Sioux and
Yep.
part white. And I
Yeah.
think he had a Crow wife.
Yeah, he was a half-breed.
Right. And then Tom LaForge ended up marrying his widow.
Here, LaForge got married quite a bit,
Man, that guy was
like
married
4 or
a lot.
5 times.
Yeah.
And he named all of his boys Tom LaForge.
Yeah. There was Tom the younger, Tom the older.
Yeah.
Fascinating story, man.
Oh, yeah.
What an interesting period of time. We were talking the other day about what time period would you go back to? That's the time period I would go back to.
I think I'd, yeah.
I think I'd want to be, I think I'd
Would you?
I wouldn't want to go past about 1888, I think.
Oh, no.
I
see,
just,
I'd
it
go
was
farther.
too sad. I don't know. That whole period right there, like the end of the Indian era,
Got too modern
it got too modern.
after.
I'm right now, I'm reading a book
1890.
on General Crook I was telling you about,
Yeah.
On the Border with Crook. And I'm right now at the point where this guy was there when Crazy Horse turns himself in 1877. He's
Mhm.
with Frank Grouard. Frank Grouard, who was a scout for
was-
General Crook and was a captive of Crazy Horses for several years.
Sitting Bulls.
Yes, Sitting Bull
Sitting
and
Bull.
Crazy
Yeah.
Horse. So
He was adopted by Sitting Bull.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Frank Grouard was.
Yes, he was. But he actually spent a lot of time with Crazy
Yes.
Horse as well. But he this army officer who wrote this book was Frank Grouard asked him once Crazy Horse turned himself in, "Hey, would you go with me to go visit Crazy Horse?" So he goes and visits him, and now I've just gotten to the part where Crazy Horse is just not doing well on
Yeah.
the reservation, and he's starting to plot to leave and go back and live the wildlife again. And that's when word gets the other Indians tell on him, and he's getting upset because he's like, wait, we have these councils and people are leaking that information to General Crook that, hey, Crazy Horse is planning on leaving and taking people with him and going and live in the wildlife again. So Crook orders that for him to be, well, he needs to be arrested,
Yeah.
but we're not going to do it. You guys do it because we're not going to get blamed for it. So anyway, long story short, that's where I'm at, is that they have now, this is when they went to arrest Crazy Horse. And he's like, once he realizes I'm not going in that cage.
Yeah.
And there's controversy about how he got killed right there in that scuffle. And I find everything past that point really sad. I find it sad for the American Indians. I find it sad for a lot of reasons about just the changing of the Wild West.
I think 1880s would have been as far
Yeah.
this far as I would have liked to I'd go, but I think like 1840
Oh,
to
yeah.
about 1879.
That was an amazing
dude.
period.
Well,
The Mountain
Dude,
Man.
that's why I'm excited for you to read Bill Hamilton. That's his period.
I know that's his period. I'm
Oh,
going to read it
man.
tomorrow.
the
That's-
expansion west.
Expansion westward.
I mean,
Post-Civil War.
yeah.
Yes.
I
Well,
mean,
even that though.
Leading up to it is pretty awesome times, but even the post-Civil War, the late 1860s,
Yeah.
when we're in the Sioux War.
And then another time I think it would be really, really interesting was like 1755 to after the Revolutionary War would be really cool.
Very cool period.
Yeah.
Very cool period. All right, we got some information. We got the lowdown on this elusive stage stop.
it's on your phone.
It's on my phone.
Yeah.
You found.
I got the coordinates.
Got the coordinates. We've cracked it.
Zach can type them in and zoom in.
Yeah, but it's on private property.
It is.
So
For
if
now.
we were to go see it,
I could probably go see it,
I just sent
Yeah.
it to you.
but I mean, it's not hard to get to. I
well,
mean,
no, it's just on private property.
Yeah.
I don't want people. To
I
like,
mean, I could. Well, he doesn't have to show the coordinates, but
no.
But
I mean, I would love to go see it if it's possible.
Yeah.
Just to get pictures of it, because someday it's going to be gone.
yeah, because
Hey.
eventually it will rot into the ground.
Yeah.
We got to get there before that happens.
Like there's that. Do you know Chief Rock behind Annapro?
What?
There's a Chief Rock behind Annapro.
I heard you and Penny talking about this the other day.
So during the
Enlighten us.
when Crow Agency was down there, south of Absaroka,
Yeah.
we all know that it was down there. But there's a rock behind Annapro, up on one of the benches,
Mm-hmm.
that's got a drawing of an Indian chief on it.
I was so close.
You were. I knew you were close. You
So-
needed to go west a little bit.
I was right,
Yeah,
I was right here.
yeah. There's a rock out there in the field
Really?
with an Indian chief drawn on it.
And
And-
how old do they figure that is?
Second Crow Agency.
Okay.
So
1870s.
1870s. But every year, I mean, it's just out there in the field, so it gets more and more weather.
And you know where it's at?
yes. And Penny's been out there a
And
bunch
we
of
haven't.
times.
You haven't taken me out there yet.
Well, it's on private
It's
property.
in the middle of a
I don't
field.
even.
In the
I don't
middle of
even
field.
know you.
So, but I want to go out there with Penny this summer, and I really want to get some good photographs. of
Summer.
it.
What are you doing tomorrow?
Spring. It's covered in snow right now still.
Man,
But you can see the
I got
buildings.
snowshoes. I got a drone.
I know, but it needs to get really. I mean, it's been documented pretty well, but I want documentation of it because
Man, let's go out there.
we'll talk to Penny
All right.
Monday and see what we can
Monday.
do. Yeah.
Hey, I was going to do live streams, but we're going to pre-record it. I just want to make sure the quality is good. So we've been done 7 episodes with Penny from the Museum of the Beartooths we call it They Gazed on the Beartooth series. Here, we're talking about the local history in this area. There's tons of it. Penny is the executive director over at the museum. And Monday morning, we're going to be recording another episode with her. And
The next couple of Monday mornings.
Yes. Well, and hopefully even more after that. We have the next couple planned out, but
Yeah.
I will get those turned around, processed, and uploaded as quickly as I can. And I think they're going to be fun episodes. Penny was supposed to be buying a big screen TV this weekend, and these episodes are going to be looping over at the museum. So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
All right. What do we got, Zach?
I have it here. I was so close.
You were?
He was. I seen him.
I put in the coordinates and it goes like this.
Right to it.
And I was like right next to it.
He was. He was like
Oh.
4
All right,
miles
we're
to
gonna
the
bring
east.
bring this up on the screen here.
But you can see multiple barns. You can see the barn to the east and kind of north, and then the buildings in the middle were where they would put the harness on the teams and stuff, and that's where they were staged. And then the long building in the middle that kind of runs north and south, that was like the lodging buildings where they had the little cabins and stuff where the people would stay on the, when they stayed over.
Can you zoom in a little bit? I'm not sure, Zach. Sorry. I don't
He does have the coordinates up there, though. I don't know how to get those
Oh,
off.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, good luck getting through the 18 gates to get there, but
Yeah. Hey,
and getting stuck into one
anybody
swamp
watching
hole.
this,
There
make
you
sure you, respect private property.
And the Wilkes brothers do have guides that run around there and for security all the time. So just let you know. So,
Oh, yeah. I guess
but whatever. And then out in the middle of the green trees is the barn that I was pictured. Right there is the barn that I was pictured standing in the doorway.
that is super cool.
So, I mean, it's really, really cool. And then there's another spot just north of
I
there.
think we could get permission to go in there and watch Hateful Eight while we're there. Generator.
Oh my God, that
Yeah.
would be kind of eerie.
Wouldn't it? Post
Yeah.
a big screen. Like I have an outdoor screen that I could hang. I'll just hang it on the barn.
Yeah.
There's probably no cell service out there, though, to watch the
We'll just
movie.
download it, make sure
There
it's
you go.
download it, and plug it into a projector. We'll
know,
sit
it's-
out there and watch Hateful Eight, and then wait. It
Hitch
should be all
up a
nice and dark.
wagon and have it loping in there with the
Yeah.
chains a rattling. You'd get
Dude, we could sell an Airbnb experience.
Don't say that out loud. Somebody else will do it, and we're going to miss our opportunity.
All right, scratch that.
kind of like your tent deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and just north of there, we set up some corrals and stuff, and there's actually a little homestead up there too, and a little more modern homestead, but there's a spring right there too, and had some buildings and stuff. We set up a portable corral, and we spay heifers and stuff up there, but there's little buildings up there, and you're like, why they settled right here, because there was water, there was shelter, and it was in just a good spot. Those people weren't stupid.
No. You know what's interesting too is like once we found Yellowstone Kelly, that's right. Actually when he found out about the Battle of the Little Bighorn, he was out there towards the Judith Gap area, and like he tells some good stories of trying to evade some nasty situations.
Yeah, that's because he was probably running back to Fort Benton to go tell them about the Indians in the way.
Right.
Tom LaForge doesn't think Yellowstone Kelly is all that.
He didn't think too highly of him.
Yeah.
But it's amazing that it's right out in those areas. So I can really picture like,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But even in Yellowstone Kelly, because I'm so familiar with that part of Montana, there's places that he talks about. I'm like, I know exactly where he rode his horse. I've probably driven through there or hiked through there.
Yeah.
And you got to figure when Tom LaForge was bagging on him, not that Tom LaForge was any older, but Yellowstone Kelly was only like, he was 16 when he joined up in 1865, right before the end of the Civil War. Then, so when he got out of the Army in 1868, I mean, he was 19 years old.
So what?
I mean, he was
1876, mid-late 20s.
Yeah, he was mid-late 20s, I guess. Yeah.
So,
but still, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Not trying to, I guess I'm not trying to, I guess I'm just trying to understand the situation.
Well, just like most people, I mean, and you don't know how much of like Tom LaForge was kind of like tooting his own horn, but at the same time, he never went to the battle either because he was stoved up because he broke his collarbone.
Right. So he missed some
saved
big
his
things
life
too.
Saved his life.
Right. He would have been gone.
But like most people don't know, Jeremiah Johnson, when he was up on the Judith, like sold dried Indian heads to people coming off riverboats.
Off the Missouri River.
Yeah. Everybody thinks of the Robert Redford version, but the real guy was hanging around
selling up there. Scalps. I mean, ears.
You read about the people that we're talking about. John Johnston, when he was up on the Judith, he'd show up butt ass naked with just a t-shirt on and holding up these dried Indian heads that he was selling to tourists.
This author of On the Border with Crook, he's talking about that he actually ended up with a necklace of fingers.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
And that he said got turned into the Smithsonian, and that the Smithsonian ended up owning it.
Wow.
But it was owned by, I can't remember, like a certain Cheyenne that when they went into this it was Dull Knife, Chief Dull Knife. So it was after the Little Bighorn. I want to say it's probably spring of 1877. They finally, I want to say it was Mackenzie. I read this book on him too. It's Mackenzie's Last Battle, or something like that. But anyway, they went in, they just annihilated this Cheyenne camp, and the Cheyenne went to Crazy Horse for saying, "Hey, we just got decimated," and Crazy Horse gave them the cold shoulder, and so the Cheyenne turned on Crazy Horse, and they were so upset with him because they were at the Little Bighorn, and when they went to him for help in the spring of 1877, and he turned a cold shoulder on him, they all joined up with Crook.
Really?
Yes.
The Cheyenne did.
The Cheyenne.
See, I didn't know this part.
Yes, to go after Crazy Horse. This is what they say is one of the real deciding factors of why Crazy Horse realized that I got no help. I've got nothing. I've got to surrender my people, or they're going to wipe us out. Because even the Cheyenne had turned on him. So anyway, this guy ended up with that. He also ended up with a shirt made of human scalps. That was
shirt.
Yes, of Crazy Horses.
Wow, a whole shirt made out of scalps.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Incredibly vicious, like times.
They were warriors.
These were, how they counted score.
Counting coup was, right up and hit your person you were battling with.
Right. And they had a coup stick that you'd literally, You got
Yeah.
more points if the guy was alive because it was more dangerous to go and tap him. Yeah.
Oh, and
Yeah.
scalp that many people.
Yeah. They
To
had
make a shirt.
he had a shirt.
Well, I know that
It's a lot of stitching.
I know a lot of
Holy
in
mackerel.
that time period too. Even the white people, they would collect scalps and then they would sell them in Europe.
Man.
And it was a
Yes.
big deal to have a scalp from
An Indian.
an Indian scalp from America back in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, the times. And really, it's not that long ago when you start thinking about it.
It's not because you
Yeah.
know somebody who knew Bill Hamilton.
Yeah.
We were at the museum the other day and you were like, I knew Lydia or something.
Lydia Martin, yeah,
And you said Lydia Martin knew Bill Hamilton.
yeah, Bill Hamilton or Bill Hamilton Jr.
Is
Or
that
something.
Clark's mom?
Lydia would have been the
Clark
mom's.
Martin's mom.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Pepper was her husband.
Yeah, Pepper.
Yeah.
The-
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Pretty wild.
I mean, it's only
Well,
two
it
generations.
Didn't April's
April's
grandmother's?
great grandmother Cookie,
Yeah,
or her nickname was Cookie.
was it the
She
funeral?
was, yeah, she was a kid.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just makes it, I mean, yeah, it just makes it pulls all that big span of time together when you
Mhm.
realize this was only this person who you knew. It was in their childhood that
Yeah.
they were there and they
Mhm.
knew this person who was born in 1820.
Yeah.
You're like, incredible, you know,
Yeah.
like,
But we're losing that. There's very few people now that were alive
yeah.
when that kind of stuff was happening.
I mean,
Yeah.
old people
know.
were born in the 30s right now.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
90s.
Right. So my folks are both born in
Hundreds.
41.
Yeah.
Right. And they're just,
They're in
you
their
know,
80s.
right. So I'm
Earlier.
like, okay, well, in 1951, right, when they were 10 years old, well, they knew old people that were born in what year? And that blows my mind that, oh man, my folks knew people
1880s.
yeah, that
exactly.
were
That were
born in
born
the
in
1870s, 1880s.
Yeah.
During the middle of the
You know?
whole,
The whole
you
thing.
know, the end of the West. And,
Yeah.
you
So
know,
it really pulls that time span together and you're like, holy cow, my parents knew people that were probably children when Custer was getting killed.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
You know,
That's- That's mind blowing.
my grandparents, my grandpa was born in the 30s, you know, and he just recently passed away. And think about the people that, you know, they like, I remember staying with my great grandparents,
So is
Wow.
you know?
that's crazy. I didn't ever know my great
Yeah.
grandparents.
I remember,
Not too many kids do.
I
know their
remember
great
going
grand-
to South Dakota in the back of the Mustang, my grandpa's Mustang with my mom and me. I don't know why my dad didn't go or they showed up later, but we drove to Freeman, South Dakota in a Mustang to go to a funeral. And we stayed at my great grandparents,
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
you know, so imagine the people that they knew. And
See,
I
like,
How
think-
far back it goes.
Yeah. And they spoke pretty much German
Wow.
when my grandpa was younger. So yeah,
so they were first generation off the boat.
I think they were second, but my great grandma on my mom's side, the Daylong side, she was born on the boat between Europe and Ellis Island.
That's
And
crazy.
I remember going to her house a lot in Billings.
Wow.
And then I was a pallbearer at her funeral. I remember that. My great grandmother.
Wow. And if you
Yeah.
could go back, you'd probably spend even more. Like, I don't think we realize it when we're younger. Like, here, soak that up. Like,
Yeah.
spend time, ask questions.
I mean, my kids, my oldest now is staying the night just to hang out with her great grandmother.
Yeah.
You know, then my great grandma, I don't know how old she is now, but I mean, like the kids still go over. Like I was just over at her house a couple days ago,
Yeah.
and I'm 43, and I get to hang out with my grandmother. Still.
How old is she now?
My great grandmother?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if my mom and dad are still watching this or not, but she's got to be close to 90,
Holy
Yeah.
mackerel.
or she's over 90.
I remember when she used to come see you guys all the time, and
Oh yeah, she still does. Still
Yeah.
goes to the kids' baseball games and
Wow.
softball games, and oh yeah.
So so where does your grandfather who was in the Korean War fit in with that? Is that
That's my dad's side.
the one
Okay.
That's
that
my
just
dad's
passed
dad.
away
hmm
from
Okay.
Park City. That
Yeah,
was-
man,
from
man,
Park City.
I got to do a deep dive. I got to read his book.
Yeah. Well, he wrote the book about the Korean War. Then he wrote a book called 60 Years of Hunting.
Really?
Yeah, really good book.
I
And then he wrote some other books. But the one
wonder if he was inspired by Bill Hamilton's
I
book.
don't know. But and then he was a professor at MSUB for
My 60 years on the plains.
yeah, I know. And his book
60
was 60
years of hunting.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so a bunch of his stuff is at the museum now.
I'm just going to go ahead and fill in the blanks that, yeah, he was obviously inspired by
Maybe.
Bill Hamilton. And
I wonder if he knew any about that history there. He was a sociology professor, so
he had to have.
maybe. Because they moved.
I'm just going to go ahead and say he did.
Yeah, they moved out here and
so let it be written.
from
So let
South
it be
Dakota
done.
in the late or mid 50s, I think. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. Shelby
Isn't
knows
it-
my grandma.
Yeah.
What?
I
Because
remember-
we were next door neighbors. We grew up together.
I remember your grandpa too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, we got to, how do we,
Like
are
our
you-
backyard.
listen,
our backyard was the football yard.
I'm really holding back from being pushy and being like, we got to get your grandma in here.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how do we, start documenting or,
I don't
man,
know.
you better start recording some sessions.
Should. I really should.
And if she's down, I know a guy who has
Because she's super smart.
know
She's super sharp.
a guy who has a recording studio in the downtown
I should
Columbus
do that.
greater
Just sit here
metro.
with like those
I'm
questions.
telling you, dude, it doesn't have to be public.
No.
I'm
Yeah.
just talking like, dude, I have tons of sessions in here with my parents just saying, Mom, what was grade school like for you? And all of a sudden I started to hear things in here that I'm like, how do I never know of these stories of you that you have from grade school in 40 something that you're telling me about this kid that was tormenting you because he had a crush on you in, 1948. And anyway,
down at the sock hop.
yeah. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
Anyway, fascinating. Such a positive experience. I don't publish these things, but I have many recording sessions.
We should do that. We should do that.
Let's do a private recording session,
Yeah.
man,
Heck yeah.
for your family.
Yeah.
I know a guy.
I know a guy. I know a guy.
You have a door code.
I do. It takes
Anyway.
me forever to get in here though, but
I know. 'Cause
that door's secret. Just because you got the door code doesn't mean
it's
you're
not
getting
just
in.
the door code, it's the technique.
Yep.
All right.
Man, this has been awesome. Shelby, it's
Yeah.
always good to catch
You
up.
too. Yeah.
Shall we? Sorry,
So-
we got a little sidetracked
Hey,
with Mormons
it's
and
History.
history.
He likes history as
I-
much as we do.
I do.
I know he does.
No, I'm not bored.
I'm not bored.
So
No, it's been great.
Cool, man. We got to do this type of stuff more often.
Yeah.
I always say that, but
I'm around. I keep you on track a little bit more.
yeah, you do.
So
I know. That's why I say it's good to have you around because I'm like,
Yeah.
man, we do this more often. So I'm
I
thankful.
I like the questions. That was a good part. I loved
Is it?
I loved it.
Okay, good. I'm trying to figure this out. We're trying to, we
Yeah.
talk about all this stuff. We want to do better at it and
Yeah.
get good at it and make it
No,
a pleasant
that was
experience.
that was a good added from the last time. Just
so
off the cuff and just
Random. Let's move along and find some things we flush out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And look where that went. I mean, that just kind of run off into
I know.
a few places too. So
It does.
So-
It does. Actually, I got some nice messages from Donna the other night after our podcast with Chuck, where she was like, I really liked all the questions, random questions, quick.
yeah.
And so I brought it up with Colton. I was like, man, I'm thinking, why don't we do this?
yeah, that was a
Anyway,
good
so I'm
one.
glad you liked it.
No,
You
We'll
didn't
have, to,
feel
we'll,
like-
have to make that a regular. I think that's
Yeah.
a good format.
I agree. Hey, thank you everybody for putting up with our technical difficulties. We're a bunch of just small town guys and trying
In
to
a
figure this-
storage bin.
in a storage unit.
Thanks, Zach, over there for all the info.
Yes.
I found some pictures from the Inbar Ranch from
Old day.
April. She said if you go to the Montana History Portal and put in the ranch name, pull up photos, and
We got to pull those up.
I got photos.
We're not wrapping up.
Not yet.
No, the history on the
thousands of
N-bar,
years.
I mean, is epic.
And they have a bunch of stuff up. Is it Cottonwood Creek up it's in the Snowies? Is that part of the Ambar, or is that it's part of the oldest ranch in one of the oldest ranches in Montana?
Wow.
The N-bar is one of the older
Yeah.
ones.
But what is that stuff up the
I think is it
halfway up to Roundup? I mean, not Roundup, but you're going almost like you're going up to
Grass Range?
Grass Range, and then you
Uh,
take a left into the Snowies.
Yep, that's it.
Wow.
Uh,
Is that one of the photos right there?
Yeah, it's not.
That's the main
It's not letting you share screen? What do you mean?
It's like
the flat willow.
Flat Willow.
Yeah.
That's part of the
We're
MBAR,
getting
right?
Yeah.
blocked.
Yeah.
We're denied.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like glitching, so I don't want to.
But yeah, that's those some of those buildings are still there. Like that's the office. One of the office buildings is right there with all those people standing in front of it.
Because they have a big place like that up Flat Willow.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And you
Like-
drive right through it.
Like that's the cattle barn,
So you
and then
could
the buildings
you
out.
could right click on it and save image as, drop it in this.
I wonder if you can't. So Historical Society might not let you. They might have a firewall thingy.
I don't know.
But it was.
I hate to tell you some of my secrets, but
I did some fencing south of Lewistown, and then I drove out that way because I knew I could get out to the highway going the dirt roads on the way out. So I took me and Nash. Nash was out helping me fence up there, and we were done for the week. So I drove out that way, and it's crazy the elk herd that they have out in that country.
that's so good news to me.
Yeah.
You know, as we go farther and farther along in time, it just seems like those
Yeah.
wilderness areas and wildlife just seems to shrink. So anyway,
No.
Yeah, but we have more elk now in Montana than we did during the mountain man times.
Yeah.
no,
You
that's
know,
positive.
Same with
to me.
whitetail.
Yeah.
Mule deer, I don't know about, but
Yeah.
There's a ton of
deers.
mule deer, it seems.
It comes and goes.
Go to the mountains. There ain't
Yeah.
any mule deer.
And
Oh,
then
man. They're laying down in my yard all the time, so that's why it feels like they're.
Yeah, the 79 ranch and the N bar and stuff, that was all the same time frame. you
Yeah.
know, back open range, and that's how those guys were able to procure those 150,000 acre ranches. They were bigger than that back in the
Yeah.
day,
What did we say the 79 was? It went from
like 1,000,000 acres or some crazy number.
no, it was bigger than Rhode Island though. But they had stuff essentially from big timber all the way past Roundup.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a huge swath of land.
Huge swath of
And they
land.
weren't just in cattle, they were in anything.
Horses, sheep.
Yeah, anything.
Same with those big ranches over by Miles City. They were just massive.
Yeah.
And then they, taxes and government and started shutting them down, and open range shut down, and
Mm-hmm.
the migration west. And
Yeah. Because if you look in that gazed upon the Beartooth, they took train carloads of equipment up to the 79 ranch. They were
Yeah.
offloading them there just west of springtime,
Yeah.
and
Were you able to pull any of those up, Zach?
No, it's frozen.
are we done then?
No, we're not.
Like when I click on screen slides video,
Okay.
it's frozen. I don't even know if I can hit the screen.
Chris Mater says he loves the nerd out format.
Thank you, Chris Mater, for sticking with us through our technical difficulties.
he was correct with his one statement about the tractor factory.
Yeah.
I think I said car factory, but it was a tractor factory
But-
in Hedgesville. And Hedgesville used to be pretty good size, and now it's just a few buildings. And one guy owns the whole old township, and it's just a few buildings right on where the highway goes through town. But there is a book, but I don't remember the name of the book that they wrote about that little area, and it's a pretty good read too.
Wow.
But I don't remember the name of it.
Yeah. I'll have to check back in with you on the Chief Plenty Coup, see how your wife liked
Yeah.
it.
You should read it too, and then because I'll read it.
I'm going to read it. I got it in
So
the
you're
other
telling
room.
me I gotta start reading?
You got to start
Yes.
reading, man. We're
Dude,
going
I
to
read
start a book club.
There you go. I read that
The Bear-
Memoirs of a White Crow Indian. I read that book in 3 days. I could
Oh,
not put
wow.
it down.
My wife
And
says
it's-
she's watching and it's past her bedtime.
The Beartooth Book Club. We're going to start a
go.
Beartooth Book Club.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so many good books in that museum.
Man, there is. Yeah.
I know
There is.
I've got one up on my bar, and I can't remember what that one's more of the Beartooth ones, just the geology and that kind of stuff of the Beartooth
Yeah.
on my bar that I've been
Wow.
thumbing through. So
So much good history at this crossroads.
Because right now on the nightstand, I've got, the Bill Hamilton one that came in today. I've got Crazy Horse and Custer that you
Oh,
got
yeah.
me,
Yep.
and Memoirs of a White Crow Indian.
Such good books.
is
Yeah.
that one at the museum? The Ventures of the White Crow Indian?
Nope.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
The
yeah, it is.
memoirs.
Yeah, it is. The
Memoir
memoirs
of a
is.
White Crow Indian. Yeah, you can get that over at the bookstore as well.
$29.95. I just bought it.
And that Crazy Horse at Custer, the parallel lives of two American warriors.
Yes. That's a
And
Stephen Ambrose, isn't it?
Stephen Ambrose,
Yeah.
and he wrote Band of Brothers. So
And he wrote the Undaunted Courage, the Lewis
About-
and Clark one.
yes.
Mhm.
So the one about Crazy Horse and Custer, he wrote that was published in 1976
Really?
on the
100
centennial.
Yeah, I want to say Memoirs was written in.
Okay, so the guy who let's really nerd
1980.
out. Chris, hold on, we're nerding out big
Before we
time.
go,
All right, this is called like nerd
After Hours.
Nerd Out After Hours Express. So there's a really good book that my parents got years ago when we first moved up here to Montana. They went to the Little Bighorn battlefield. They picked up Save the Last Bullet for Yourself, and by Thomas Marcus. Actually, it's a French name. It's probably like Marquis or
Yeah.
something, you know. But Penny called him Thomas Marcus. So anyway, he wrote Memoirs of a White Crow
Mhm.
Indian. And so his book, Save the Last Bullet for Yourself, he actually lived with the Northern Cheyenne and the Sioux for about 3-4 years. He moved around, but he lived with them to document their stories and to earn their trust. Because he's
Wow.
like, the story wouldn't just come. They won't just tell you the story. But he lived with the people who were at the battle and in the 1920s. And he ended up writing this book called Save the Last Bullet for Yourself, because he was finding out that they're like, the Great Spirit moved in and caused these guys to go crazy and to turn on each other, because we just saw soldiers that would just shoot like 3-4 soldiers in the head and then turn the gun on themselves. And we knew it was and they were like, the Great Spirit saved our people by causing them to go crazy. And he makes the case that most of Custer's command were green. They were Irish immigrants. They were guys who had
young.
never seen battle,
Mhm.
but everybody knew, don't get captured because you'll get tortured. There's just terrible stories. And so everybody was like, don't go down, save the last bullet for yourself. He makes the claim that, I'm not saying this is the truth of the matter, but I'm saying he makes the claim that Custer was found with one round to the upper torso and one round to the side of his head. And
I've always said there's worse things than dying.
yeah, exactly.
And I've, just what they portray in movies of what Indians would do to torture you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But some of these books I've been reading too about that time frame. The white folk were doing that to each other.
They were too.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, that whole time period was
It was crazy.
crazy. I mean,
It
there
was
wasn't much
American.
difference between, like Mongol warfare in the 13,
Yeah.
in the early centuries.
American primeval. I'm so excited for you
Dude.
to read about Bill Hamilton,
I am.
because Bill Hamilton gets into this.
I know.
And
He
so,
could scout. He could teach people how to scalp like the
oh
best of
yeah,
them.
and he breaks it all down. But yeah, it was ugly times, but it was the culture.
It was.
And the Americans, in a way, I don't know. I'm sure there's things that they brought, but they also learned a lot from the culture. And so that's where Bill Hamilton comes into play. He teaches about what was culture and what they had to do. It was a part of survival. It was a part of the Western culture. So, but anyway, that book Thomas Marcus wrote, Save the Last Bullet for Yourself. That was the first book I wrote by him.
Have you read it?
I've read it.
And?
It's a great. And so the problem is that when he published it, they were like, this is like Custer's
It's too controversial.
Custer's widow is still alive, and this is not okay, and this is not acceptable. This is not, Custer. There was a gallant last stand. That's been the story,
Right.
And he was like, I'm just saying,
This
not
is
according to these guys. They
that were in the battle.
They were in the battle. They saw it. They saw guys line up, and a lot of guys just committed suicide. So anyway, what's wild is that when Libby Custer, she died in like 1935, I want to say. This book was then allowed to be published in 1936, I think. If I might be off on the years. It was in the 30s. She passed in the 30s. This book was allowed to be published. But but it was passed. Thomas Marcus had passed before the book published.
Let's read that book again and let's talk about it, because I think we could deep dive into that.
The Last Bullet for Yourself?
Yes.
Yeah, good book.
I'll order it tonight.
Okay.
Let's read it.
Super good book.
Shelby, you're going to read it too.
Shelby,
Fine.
you're going to have to brush up the alphabet.
Does it read it to you?
Yeah, right.
It might.
Yeah.
You could probably tell Grok to find the book for you and read it to you,
Yeah.
So,
or Chat GPT.
yeah,
Good stuff, man.
But
this has been great.
Yeah, it has
So,
been.
heck yeah, the only thing we're missing is campfire.
We'll figure that out. We just need a little. That'd be great. A little,
Little
crackle
tray.
right here. And there.
But
All right, we're actually wrapping it up now.
So,
Okay. Hey, everybody, thank you for tuning in with us, sticking with us tonight. We had the legend Shelby Burrows in with us tonight. It was good to have you in here, my man.
thanks for having me.
Mr. Dreamy.
Mr. Dreamy, the mountain man.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next time. Thank you, Zach.